Guys, Richie Gamer back, and we're back to Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry Potter, book reviews, Veggie Night. Very, very excited. The last episode was a beefy one, guys, and I'm vegan, but it was a beefy one. It was like, I go for well over 4 hours long, I believe. I don't think this one will be quite as long, just because we're now back to doing the 3 chapters again. That being said, the book club is chunky this time, guys. A lot of people have been posting in the book club. I should say this, let's get this straight out of the way, okay? First things first, guys, because this is something which I often forget to mention. Over on the Patreon, we're always at least two review episodes ahead. And so if you ever get to the end of the ones which are on YouTube, you can always go over to Patreon, pay as little as you want, and get access to everything that's on the Patreon. There's no tier system. You can pay as little as you want, and you can get access to all the most recent book reviews, as well as the Harry Potter Book Club, which is where people on the Patreon give their thoughts on the chapters that we cover, or maybe ask a question, or like point out things, or give an opinion about the chapters that we're talking about in each episode. And this time, guys, there was a discussion. And I don't fully, even now, I don't fully understand what it was, guys, because I don't read the book club comments beforehand. But whenever I get whenever anyone posts a comment on the book club, I get an email. And it doesn't say where it is. I always like to just read the first sentence, a bit of the first sentence, just work out if it is in the book club or somewhere else, and if it is the book club, I'll stop. And I know that there is a huge discussion in the book club this time regarding something that Snape does, or potentially. We'll get to it, guys. But even now, having reviewed the chapters. Or, listen to the chapters, Stephen Fry this time, on the audiobooks. I'm still not 100% sure what. We'll get to it. But yes, there's a lot of passion about these chapters, guys, which is like, wow, crazy. So, if you want to go check out that discussion, you can. It is lengthy. But as always with the book review questions, I'll always read the top one. I won't read the replies, if you know what I mean. And so, if you put like a comment over on the book club, you will get it read out in the video. And then the replies, people can go to spoilers because they know that I'm not actually going to be replying. Okay, so if there's say there's a post about Snape, and they give their opinion, I will be reading that opinion out on the video. Now, if someone replies to that post which is about Snape, I won't be reading that in the video, and that's where there's this huge conversation going on. And again, even now that I know, I've listened to the chapters, I still don't 100% sure. We'll get to it, guys. I'm not sure what to be. I will be giving my opinions on the moment in this video. And if you've got strong opinions about it, guys, please do let me know in the comments. That's my favourite thing about doing these videos, guys, is reading your comments on the YouTube or on the Patreon. I love it, guys. It is my favourite part of doing these book reviews. It genuinely is. And also just finding out the full story of these books, guys, which are just blooming wonderful. These chapters are wonderful as well. I do feel like the movie did a pretty good job representing a lot of these chapters. That being said, I need to stop going overboard comparing the movie with the book, guys, because at the end of the day, this is meant to be a review of the book. It's not just meant to be a comparison. That being said, is there any other housekeeping I need to do? I don't think there is, not this time. There is a P.O. box, guys. If you want to be sending me Harry Potter stuff, you can. I need to be mentioning that every now and then in videos. There should be a link to a video which gives more information about the P.O. box system there. But thank you to everyone who sent stuff already. It's an absolute joy opening stuff. And I think that's really it when it comes to housekeeping. I think it is. Okay, well, let's just get on with it anyway. And if I remember anything else I need to bring up, I'll bring it up during the chapter reviews. But right now, let's go over to Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Chapter 5, The Dementor. So, as always, gotta give a shout to Jonas, who does these wonderful side panels for these videos. They're greatly appreciated. And, of course, pardon me, Raider Max, for doing the summaries for the chapters that I read out before going into my notes. And so, thank you to you both. Here's Raider Max's blurb about the Dementor. After a chaotic morning, everyone arrives at King's Cross Station. Arthur pulls Harry aside to inform him about Sirius Black. Harry tells him that he overheard him and Mrs. Weasley talking talking the other night and already knows, and how Arthur doesn't have to break his word to Molly, and that Harry is not afraid. Harry's confused when Arthur tells him to not go looking for Black. Once aboard the Hogwarts Express, they find a compartment accompanied by the one and only Professor Remus John Lupin. I don't know if I ever knew that his name was John before. Middle name, I should say. I don't know. What's your middle name? That'd be an interesting thing for it. Mine's Brian. Right. Veggie Brian Gamer. Seeing that he is asleep, Harry tells his BFFs all about Black. Both Ron and Hermione are freaked out, but Harry thinks they should chill out a little. They then start talking about Harry's not being able to go to Hogsmeade, and Hermione lets Crookshanks out of the basket, upon which the cat immediately goes after Scabbers. Later, Draco Malfoy and his goons Crabbe and Goyle stop by to stir up trouble. I gotta say, guys, just pausing the description just there, because I've started watching the Harry Potter musicals, I am genuinely starting to see them as the characters from that now, which is terrible. But yes, particularly Crabbe, actually. I really am with Crabbe. Anyway, I love Crabbe's hat on. Anyway. Back to this. This is why these videos are so blooming long. Oh yes, Draco Malfoy with Crabbe and Goyle stop by to stir up trouble. Some things never change. But they shut up and leave when they spot the sleeping Professor Lupin. The train then slows and comes to a stop, which is weird, and the lights go out, which is extra creepy. Neville and Ginny come into the compartment, and Lupin finally awakes and tells them to shut up. Then it gets very cold, and something horrible comes inside the compartment. See, I was going to make a joke about Neville then, but Neville's already in there. Who else can I say? Who cares? Sorry, Percy. There we go. There. I really like Percy. Sorry, right. Something really horrible comes inside the compartment. Harry hears a roaring sound and someone screaming, then passes out. When he comes to, the light is on, the train is moving, and the Dementor is gone. Lupin gives Harry chocolate and goes to talk to the driver. Harry's friends are all shaken and afraid, but no one else passed out like Harry did. No one heard the screaming either. Finally, the train arrives at Hogwarts, and everyone makes their way up to the school. Unfortunately, news of Harry's passing out has already made its rounds, and Draco pops up to make fun of him, like a punk. That's right, Max has got it. Lupin comes back and shuts Draco down. As they enter the school, Professor McGonagall pulls Hermione and Harry aside and takes them to her office. Harry is checked over by the school nurse, Madame Pomfrey, or Poppy as McGonagall refers to it here. He's humiliated and escapes as soon as possible, worried that he'll never live down his little fainting spell. Fainting spell as in a spell of time, not a fainting spell. Ignore me. Hermione stays behind a few more minutes and then emerges with Professor McGonagall. The three make their way down to the Great Hall for the welcome feast. Dumbledore delivers his welcome back speech, though it's more serious this year since he spends time warning people about the Dementors that are lurking about. Dumbledore... Did I say Dumbledore? I did, yes. Dumbledore moves onto happier matters and introduces the two new professors. Professor Lupin will teach the defense against the dark arts, and Hagrid will be teaching care for magical animals. Harry, Ron, and Hermione are psyched about Hagrid's new gig. At the end of the feast, they rush up to congratulate Hagrid, and then make their way to their Gryffindor rooms along with the rest of their house. Harry feels like he's back home at last. So thank you very much, Radamax, for that wonderful blurb, and again, thank you so much to Jonas for putting together these wonderful looking sidebars. So guys, let's get on to my lovely note. And so, yeah, obviously we're starting off in Diagon Alley. Ron bursts in, no, he doesn't burst in, he walks into Harry's room as Harry's finally getting his stuff finally all together, and he's just like absolutely sick of Percy at this point. He like says that at Hogwarts he feels like at least at Hogwarts he's going to be able to get away from him, which completely threw me off, that guy, because for half a second I thought, Oh, has Percy left school now? But no, he's the head boy. He means because at the Weasley's household, Percy's always there. Unlike last year when he was hiding away, talking, sending letters to Penelope. Speaking of Penelope, Percy has accused Percy has accused Ron of dripping tea onto a picture of Penelope Clearwater, which I'd imagine is probably true. I'd imagine that Ron probably did. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. It could have been any of them, to be honest. It could be any of the Weasleys, but the really nice thing is that apparently Penelope in the photograph is like hiding behind the frame of the picture because she's trying to get away from the tea. And it says that it's smudging her nose or something like that. Harry and Ron make their way downstairs into the Leaky Cauldron, I guess, main room? Saloon bar, maybe is the best term for it. And Molly is telling Ginny and Hermione about a love potion. I don't know if it's that she made or like a love potion that she'd heard about a lot. And they're all like giggling. I don't know, guys. Maybe it's... No, it can't be because Molly is not a child. But the morality behind love potions just seems so odd to me. It really does. We got into this before. And you know what? We'll go into it again, obviously, in... Goblet. No, not Goblet. Half-Blood Prince, isn't it? It's Half-Blood Prince. Yeah, so we'll go into Half-Blood Prince, presumably. But yeah, the whole morality about it, it seems shocking to me. Especially the side effects that it can potentially have, which I'm not sure is ever actually said explicitly in the books, and that if it is completely, kayfabe, if to use a wrestling term, but love potions can have horrific outcomes. Aside from them just being incredibly unethical, in my opinion, anyway. But yes, that's another subject for another day. And we hear about Hermes, Percy's screech owl, which is very interesting. Very interesting that it's called Hermes, guys. Presumably it won't turn up when it's meant to, and then it will just end up throwing the parcel over the back wall. I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone in the UK, let alone anyone outside the UK. So let's just move on. It's very interesting that we hear about Percy's screech owl. It really is. It can't be new, right? So why... Because it's Percy's. Errol's the family's. Ron makes that very clear. Ron does make that very clear that Errol is not Ron's owl. When Hermione talks about how Harry and Ron have owls. In a previous chapter. So maybe Percy's always had this screech owl. Not renting out for a delivery service, though, is he? But yeah, we've certainly never heard of Hermes before. So what about everyone else, then? Scabbers would have been handed down. So what is Percy? I don't know. I swear this is the first time we've heard about Percy having his own owl. But yeah, I thought that was very interesting. Anything to do with Percy I find interesting, guys. And it is a regular thing that I get comments saying, I never thought I'd see someone be so interested in Percy. I find him blooming fascinating, guys. I genuinely do. But yes, we hear about his screech owl here. So the cars arrive, like Arthur was saying about, and they're like green with like emerald velvet wearing drivers, which it sounds pretty amazing. I wonder if that's maybe what the colouring... Fudge, as I remember, was wearing green previously in the books as well. I think that his bowler hat was purple and the rest of his outfit was green. I feel like that's right. So maybe green is like just the colour of the Ministry of Magic. Their uniform, for want of a better word. Uniform's not the right word, but it sounds cool. Anyway, I do like the sound of, particularly the emerald velvet wearing drivers. They sound very cool. Harry gets in first. It's probably like a blooming, I don't know what, like a not a hostage. What's the term? Like a VIP rescue mission sort of thing. Like Arthur's like looking down the streets and everything, getting Harry into the car first. It's a great line where it says Harry was then joined by Ron, Hermione, and Ron was then joined. One more time. Harry was then joined by Ron, Hermione, and to Ron's disgust, Percy. Horrible. The cars seem to act normal. Maybe it's just like such a comparison to obviously the night bus, but Harry does remark upon how the bus does seem to be behaving normally, but they sometimes will just somehow like get to the front of the queue at parked lights and everything, much like a scooter. I used to be on 2 wheels, in fact, guys, on a scooter, and it's the best thing about it is that you can filter through traffic completely legally. You know, some car drivers don't realise that it's completely legally, but it's completely legal to just go whoop like that to the front of the lights, and so that's what these cars seem to be able to do, but Harry can't quite work out how they're doing it. It's not like the night bus where, like, you know, farmhouses having to jump out the way and then jump back again. But it's obviously like just a little more subtle where they're just seemingly able to just do it. It's very nice, very nice. It's subtle magic amongst muggles, which I like. He doesn't say how Vernon's company car wouldn't be able to do it. Nice little callback to Vernon's car there. We got a callback to Vernon's socks in a bit. Yeah, Arthur is essentially escorting Harry like a bodyguard, and like they're walking through King's Cross. And like a train will like pull up, and Arthur will just be like staring at everyone who's getting off it as they're walking towards the portal. It's not a portal. What's the term which they always use? I probably got it down here. I always forget the term that they specifically use for the gateway onto 9 3/4. Barrier. There we go. That's the term which I always forget. And it's very interesting how Harry and Arthur this time just slightly like lean against the barrier this time and then fall into it just to, I guess, particularly not draw attention. But then again, they know who Sirius Black is and that he would have been a student of Hogwarts. So presumably Sirius would have had to make that journey. That's a good point. What happened? Why if you live in like the north of England? Okay, here we go. Right, pause. Here we go. Half an hour talking about this, guys. If you like live in like Newcastle, which is like northeast of England, and Hogwarts is in Scotland, do you have to travel to London to catch the bloody train, or not like the bloody Baron? All the way to Hogwarts. What happens if you live in Glasgow or Edinburgh? Do you then have to travel to London? No, that can't be the case. A lot of students must just live. There must be lots of Scottish students. There's loads. Cedric isn't Scottish. No, I don't think. Pumpkin Pasty is definitely Scottish. Okay, she's got a Scottish accent. Obviously, her nickname Cho Chan isn't particularly Scottish. No. You see, I'm obviously seeing Hogwarts. I'm seeing 9 3/4 from the wrong lens here. I'm seeing it as that is how you get to Hogwarts. Although I'm pretty sure it's already been confirmed that for Hogwarts Legacy, that is not how you arrive, which is a shame. Oh, that's a shame. That would have been cool. But I don't know when King's Cross was created, though. It may have been before King's Cross was created. I doubt it. I doubt it. So, what we've established is that I've just wasted everyone's last 5 minutes. Because obviously people who live in Edinburgh are not going to be travelling to London so they can get access to somewhere in Scotland. But through the lens of someone who's watched the movies and read these books, it's not just the movies. My headcanon up to this point was, you go to King's Cross Station to get to Hogwarts and that's it. But no, of course not, because Harry and Ron follow the train in the car. Okay. Wow, hang on, Cho Chan is on the train! that rhymed. Not to see, I should say. She's on the train. No, train isn't typed with C, Veggie. Cho Chan is on the train. And she has a Scottish accent. Okay. So, in the comments, guys, either confirm to me that I'm right, that even people in Edinburgh would have to travel down to London to get to Hogwarts. Confirm to me that no, obviously locals would be able to just go over to Hogwarts. Maybe there's another system of getting there. I don't think there's going to be any other trains. Or thirdly, just tell me to get on with the bloomin' book reviews because you keep on getting sidetracked. So those are your three options, guys. A, B, or 3. Right. And now I'm lost. I'm an absolute disgrace. Okay. So yes, Arthur... I should say, actually, I've already skipped the part. The fact that we do have the conversation between Arthur and Harry, which is something which I was saying which was interesting that it wasn't in the previous chapter. And so we do have it here. And Harry does explain that, okay, I overheard you talking about it, which is very honest of Harry. First time he's ever been honest about eavesdropping, considering like 70% of these books is Harry eavesdropping on people. But he like says... But now you can't get in trouble with the ministry or with Molly, like Max says, because I eavesdrop. It wasn't you telling me at all, even though you are telling me right now. He doesn't say that. So yeah, that's very interesting that we get that conversation here. So like I say, Harry and Arthur are like leaning onto the barrier and like falling into it. For what reason, I'm not really sure, because I would imagine it would be less conspicuous to just do what the other wizarding students are doing. But that's what they do. And then Ginny and Percy like follow through and they're like panting because they were running. The running thing does make me question now, guys, because the fact that Harry and Arthur were able to just fall into it, up to this point I thought it was much like the man who stares at goats theory of where it used to be a program in America where people were essentially trying to be Jedis. Like people would stare at a goat trying to kill it, essentially. This was like military, funded activity. And one of the things that they would try to do is to run through walls. And the thinking is that if you absolutely convince yourself that you're going to be able to do it, then you will be able to do it. And hence, that is why you need to run at it. Because only someone who is 100% convinced that they're going to be able to do it would run at it. And so that's why I've always assumed that they run at the barrier. But Harry and Arthur are able to just fall through it. So, again, waffle about the tiny little details, but that's always just been my headcanon up to this point. The idea that you had to be that committed to say, yes, I am going on to 9 3/4 to get on to 9 3/4, if you know what I mean. So Harry and Gin actually exchange glares and like have a little giggle when Percy's like striding over to Penelope. He's like with his chest out so she can like see the prefect badge. I really like Percy, guys. I know it's probably going to go wrong at some point, but at this stage, book Percy, I'm all over. As is Penelope. Ha! Sorry. Nice to hear some more Ravenclaw representation, by the way. Molly kisses Hermione and Harry goodbye, which is lovely, and gives Harry an extra big hug as well. I think because of what's going on with Black and everything. I mean, like the hug is more for Molly's benefit than to Harry's, but Harry does. I think it says that Harry is taken back by it, but he really appreciates it as well. And Molly's made sandwiches for everyone. She does say, "Don't worry." I think Ron, it's not corned beef. Doesn't actually say what it is though. Maybe speak. And then they all get onto the train. So yeah, no, okay. So this is the point where we have the conversation with Arthur and Harry, and Harry admits that he overheard Molly and his conversation. Arthur's fine with it. One thing which is interesting to me. Harry is still saying Voldemort, even to people that he respects. Now. It's Dumbledore who said that Harry should use Voldemort's full name. But the fact that he would say it to Arthur because Arthur is visibly shook by it, but he clearly wants to just get on with the important conversations. It doesn't say don't say that or anything like that. Although in the movie he does say don't say that name. Harry sees the Weasleys more than just his family in a weird way, because he hasn't had a family essentially at all. Hypothetically, I guess you should say. Not hypothetically, but and so I would almost think that Harry, just out of respect, wouldn't say it to Arthur just because he knows that it's going to upset him. But no, he's still saying it. But then again, Dumbledore has said that Harry should say it. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Just thought it was noteworthy at least. Then we get the line, "Why would I go looking for someone who wants to kill me?" I do get the impression that is highly suggesting that Arthur, particularly after the end of Chamber, because Arthur and Molly were actually there when Harry came in covered in blood with Ginny and Ron and Gilderoy, is thinking that Harry is a kind of troublemaker, but in the nicest sense, where he knows that Harry probably has gained a lot of confidence over the last couple of years, being able to overcome these two horrendous things happening. And so Arthur's telling him to not go looking for Black. And obviously in the previous scene we had Ron said, do you think we'll get a reward if we can catch him and everything? And so Arthur is saying this to Harry, obviously looking out for Harry, but also Ron as well. The fact that he knows what these kids are like, and the fact that they may very well, try and save the day. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's very interesting. The reasons why Arthur is wanting to tell Harry this information. It's to stop Harry from... It's good. It's good. And it was done well in the movie as well, but it's really so much more fleshed out here. Arthur's conversation with Molly and with Harry. It's great. And also Ron previously saying, like I say, would we get a reward if we were to catch Sirius Black? It's good. It's a good line. That was a good line. So Harry wants to talk with Hermione and Ron about what's been going on, and Ron straight up says, "Go away, Ginny," which reminded me of the musical Ron from a very popular musical Ron, I should say, because Ginny is very much treated like that by Ron on this. Lupin's face isn't covered up at all. Apparently he's looking very, very shabby, which I didn't really pick up on when I first watched the movie, but now I've watched it again. His hair and his skin is very, very shabby. Outfit, not so much. It does say that his robes are kind of like a mess compared to other teachers, but then they don't really wear robes in the movies, do they? The teachers, some of them do, obviously. A lot of them do. But Lupin don't. Lupin just wears a suit, doesn't he? But yes, he's looking very, very shabby here. Hermione actually works out that he's going to be the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, which is very, very clever by Hermione, because obviously, there's one slot available after last year, and then right here we hear about the fact that there is already a rumour that the Defense Against the Dark Arts role is jinxed. Very, very interesting. I don't know if we ever found out who preceded Quirrell. Hey, Quirrell. I don't remember who preceded Quirrell, guys. I feel like it may have been mentioned, because obviously Quirrell wasn't at Hogwarts the year before, because he was off, obviously in Europe, doing scary stuff. And so, yeah, I don't remember. Maybe there was a line in the Philosopher's Stone saying, Professor is no longer here or anything. Because presumably this jinx, this curse, isn't just because Harry's arrived there. Maybe it is. I doubt it, though. But presumably it predates Harry arriving at Hogwarts significantly. Presumably it was affecting teachers when James and Lily were there. Oh, that's interesting. And if that's the case, no, because it's only a rumour. I was going to say, why would Snape want to be in that role? But it is only a rumour, even at this point. Yeah, stuff between Voldemort leaving Hogwarts. You'd imagine that's... No, because he wanted to be the defense against the dark arts teacher, didn't he? But definitely since Voldemort's been defeated, there would be this jinx affecting teachers, right? Because it's not... Harry's arriving is not significant to the curse, I don't think. You're going to have to cry. I feel like I've missed a line here or there, guys, but I'd love to hear some more about these other defense against dark arts teachers who are getting wrecked every year. Hermione tells what? Oh yeah, so yeah, Hermione is basically echoing what Arthur is saying like, you know, not to go sneaking around and everything, and like, you know, don't go off into the Forbidden Forest, and, you know, just basically stay at the school and stay safe. And Harry is getting frustrated with this. He's already... You kind of get the impression that he was kind of getting it with Arthur, but with Hermione saying it, he's like actually getting quite agitated about the fact that he's getting what's the term? Doted? That's not like the term, is it? Treated with kid gloves, basically. He's getting frustrated that even his peers are doing that now as well. So he's definitely getting very annoyed. Ron then says, "How thick would Harry have to be to go looking for a nutter that wants to kill him?" That is the most English line in the world, guys. How thick? So because obviously, like, in the last few years, thick with 2 C's has started to mean something else on the internet. But calling someone thick in the UK has always meant that they're stupid. Stupid. So yeah, I thought that was a funny line. We get the Sneako's scope coming out. Hermione seems very, very interested in it, but Ron's just like saying it's only a cheap one. So yeah, as they're discussing like the Sneako's scope, I think it's making a noise. I think potentially, and Lupin might be starting to stir a bit, and so Harry like puts it inside Vernon's sock and puts it back into his bag, which is horrible. But it's good that we're still hearing about Vernon's sock. It really is. I wonder if that's going to pay off at any point. The fact that we got this Vernon sock being so, you know, being a part of his infiltrate. Very interesting bit of information here. Apparently Hogsmeade is the only entirely non-Muggle settlement in Britain. That blows my mind, guys, because when... That really does. One thing from Fantastic Beasts, which I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is odd. It seems like there seem to be very, very few areas for wizard folk to go. Now, that's obviously because it's inside a city, whereas... Hogwarts and Hogsmeade and everything is its own like little area, but I assumed that there were loads. I assumed that there were like villages, or no, there are villages. But it says that Hogsmeade is believed to be the only entirely non-Muggle settlement in Britain. Yeah. I did not think that was the case at all, quite frankly. So, again, maybe it's a throwaway line in the movie, but I was now going to pick up on that. But yes, I thought that was fascinating. Ron starts telling Harry and Hermione about Honeydukes, which sells pepper imps and choco balls and sugar quills. Quills, I should say, that you can basically chew on in class and pretend that you're just thinking about a question and everything. Ron really does sound like he knows this place, and so I don't know if maybe it's a chain. I don't think that there is one in Diagon Alley. But then, Ron No, I don't know. Would Ron have been to Hogwarts before when Fred and George were leaving? Are there leaving ceremonies? I guess maybe we'll find out eventually. Maybe when Percy moves on, maybe there'll be a leaving ceremony. In which case, are your family allowed to come along to the leaving ceremony? Meaning that Ron most probably would have been to Honeydukes. Was that? Yeah, Honeydukes. But he does sound like he knows it. Unless it's just like Fred and George have been telling him about it so much, which is also obviously a big possibility as well. Hermione's a lot more interesting in the history of the place, which is obviously typical Hermione. We hear yet again about the 1612 Goblin Rebellion, which I can't remember where we've heard from before, guys. It's not just from the Hogwarts Legacy trailers, is it? I swear that we've heard about the Goblin Rebellion, I think in Philosopher's Stone, in fact. During one of the wonderful bits where Harry's like collecting all the books and everything, and like and so on and so forth. I'm sure that that's come up before. I do feel like that's going to be a significant thing in Hogwarts Legacy, because obviously we know that there are a lot of goblins running amok in that game. Fun fact, I just today, in fact, got a video card which is going to be able to run Hogwarts Legacy properly. So hopefully expect to see that on the channel, hopefully in live streams, in fact, in the near future, guys. But yes. We hear about the Shrieking Shack. Hermione's heard all about that, it being like the most haunted building in Britain as well. Harry has already accepted that he's not going to be able to go at this point, and he's like, saying, yeah, that all sounds great. I'm not going to be able to go to any of it. It does sound like he's still intent on asking McGonagall, but he absolutely does not have his hopes up of going at all. I know I keep saying it, guys, but I love the fact that the permission slip is essentially the main part of the story at this point of the book. That's just so much what you're like when you're that age, you know? The fact that it's this one thing which would just mean the world to you if it was okay, but the world situation is saying nah to you. I love the fact that it's such a significant thing in Harry's mind. It's brilliant. I think it's so nice. And it's so briefly remarked upon in the movie. But again, you can't have everything from the book in the movie. So Crookshanks springs. I think that Hermione lets Crookshanks out, and Crookshanks immediately springs onto Ron's knees and stares at his top pocket where Scabbers is hiding. Lupin does wake up momentarily. Hermione tries to wake him up again when the treats trolley goes by, but the witch like says that it's fine. That she'll put something aside, or she'll come back again. No, she'll be up with the driver if Lupin does wake up and needs anything. Draco, Crabbe and Goyle arrive as always. Apparently Draco is still the seeker for Slytherin, guys, which surprises me considering the earache that he got at the in the middle, I guess, of the last book. Sure, the team are all getting better brooms because Lucius. But Draco being so bad in that last game, would Draco want to... I guess he probably would. I was going to say that maybe Draco wouldn't want to, like, you know, risk being humiliated, but at the same time, he always wants to one-up Potter, though, doesn't he? Or Potty, as he refers to him in a minute, which is actually quite funny. It's really nice how this journey is so long again, guys. And it's the case in the first two books as well. How long the Hogwarts Express journey is in Philosopher's Stone is something which I did not expect at all. How long the journey with Ron and Harry inside the flying car is in Chamber of Secrets, I really did not see that coming in the slightest. And it's so character building. It's brilliant. It really is. And again, we get this lovely long journey before anything goes wrong in Prison of Azkaban. I love it. It's a formula. It's a uniform. Where it's like saying, okay, so we'll get to that point in the story where they're on the train. We'll get to that point in the story where they're at Diagon Alley. We'll get to that point in the story where it's the welcoming feast and everything. It's very nice to have that uniform, you know? And the fact that at least the first few books start... Oh, I don't know about this one, but the first two books start at the start of term and end at the end of term. I think it's great. I think it's lovely. I think it's a lovely way of doing it. It gives you familiarity with it, you know what I mean? So yes, Draco does refer to Harry and Ron as Potty and Weasel, which is, you gotta admit, is quite funny, guys. But yeah, they like immediately back off as soon as they realise that there is a teacher in there. So that was one useful thing for Lupin, who is amazing. I gotta say, it's a joy to meet Lupin. It really is, because you know how much I flipping loved him in the movies, guys. The train comes to a stop. Neville like falls into the carriage, typically. Accidentally almost sits on Crookshanks, which is nasty. It's completely pitch black. Like, no one can see anything. Like, it was like saying, is that you? Is that you? It really is very, very dark in this scene in the book. Hermione actually gets up to go and speak with the driver, which is very brave of Hermione. It's very interesting that no one's doing any light up spells at this point. But they're not allowed to, though, are they? No. But Hermione's fixed Harry's glasses before on the train. I guess maybe it's the kid thing, particularly the fact because there's a teacher in there as well. They're like, oh, okay, we'll let the teacher deal with it, you know, rather than, you know, them spring into action. But like I say, Hermione is going up to go and speak with the driver to see what's going on. And when she opens the door, Bloomin' Ginny like comes flying in, who is looking for Ron. Lupin wakes up and like holds up a flame to like light up the room a bit. It's still very, very dark in there, and the Dementor comes through the doorway. It seems like the movie got its design right, just perfect. Quite frankly, I think they look amazing in the movie. I really do. Very creepy description of the feeling that Harry gets from the Dementor. It really is actually. It sounds terrifying, quite frankly. He obviously hears the screaming and everything, and Harry then passes out. Very, very descriptive about how the cold is like infecting his heart and everything. It's pretty bleak. Here's someone screaming. I believe I could have this wrong, guys, because obviously it's been a little while. And I apologise. I believe that is because it's the memory of his mother getting attacked. Because the Dementors use your past. I'm so sorry if I've gotten this wrong, guys, but I believe the Dementors use your darkest moments to distill despair inside you. And when I thought about that, and if that's not the case, I apologise, but I believe that is currently the case. Immediately when I covered that part of the audiobook, I was thinking, oh, hang on a second. Fantastic Beasts. The execution method that the American wizards use is essentially the opposite. They're using really... If you haven't seen Fantastic Beasts, guys, so there is a reaction of it that I'll be editing that up and getting out as soon as I can. But there is a scene where it's like an execution, essentially, and this person's memories are being used to make them willfully step into an abyss, essentially. So it's very interesting. That felt like a bit of a reference, almost like a parallel. In fact, Lupin like gets up and like says to the Dementor, which is amazing. I don't know if you can even speak to Dementors, but apparently you can. None of us are hiding Sirius Black under our cloaks. Go. It's amazing. That's a great line. Yeah, Harry is already, like, as soon as he wakes up, he's instantly feeling ashamed of passing out, which is just stupid. Maybe he's feeling ashamed because he knows what Draco's going to be like and everything, but he feels embarrassed that I guess because Ginny's there and she's like a year younger, and Neville would be your traditional cut and run character. Maybe because Ginny and Neville are there, it makes more sense. Because obviously in the movie they're not, but in the book they are, and it kind of makes sense that Ginny is there, this younger girl, who obviously Harry is probably starting to feel feelings for, and Neville, who is the go-to person if you need someone to pass out. Not that he's passed out before. No, because the bit where. The screaming plants from Chamber of Secrets, and Neville's earmuffs not completely covering his ears. I'm pretty certain that was a movie exclusive. And so I don't think we've had Neville pass out. We've had him fall over a bit, obviously. But what I'm saying is, straight away, Harry is thinking, oh god, I'm the only one who blooming passed out, which is very interesting. Lupin obviously hands out chocolate. He actually hands out chocolate to everyone, I believe, because the coldness has affected everyone. And he says, "I haven't poisoned the chocolate, you know, because no one's actually eating it." And it does describe what happens when they have the chocolate. It like gives them like a sudden feeling of warmth and everything. So I was thinking, oh, it must be some sort of special chocolate. But it turns out in a minute, no, it's just chocolate, which is very interesting. So chocolate is the natural enemy of Dementors. Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. So yes, Hagrid is taking the first years as always. I didn't actually realise it until now that the boat trip is specifically for first years, and I love that. I think that's actually such a wonderful thing for the first years, especially with Hagrid and everything going across the boats. Everyone else is getting into the horses' carriages. Now I'm an idiot, guys, because I remember thinking when we met the Fistrills in Order, I was thinking, oh, well, are those the things which were leading the carriages? But of course they're not, because Harry would have been able to see them. And so yes, we have the horseless carriages here, and they all get on and head on over there. Draco is already mocking Harry about the fainting, which is amazing. The fact he's already on him. It's very interesting that Draco does seem to know what a Dementor is at this point. Because Ron didn't. And I think it's in the next chapter we found out that Fred and George know what they were. Because Arthur had been to Azkaban before, which we will get to. But Ron didn't seem to know what a Dementor was. So Draco knowing is very interesting. Maybe it's because he was in a carriage with someone who knew what it was as well. But then again, Draco is from a family which would probably have run-ins with Dementors, quite frankly. And so maybe that's why he knows more about them. So yes, McGonagall wants to speak to Harry and Hermione immediately, and I think says not you, Weasley, which is charming. Pomfrey enters the room to cater for Harry, and literally says, "Oh, it's you again, is it?" Which is amazing, and immediately suggests chocolate. So not magical chocolate, just chocolate. So chocolate is actually the counter to Dementors, which is wonderful. I really like that. I think that's awesome. So, on Hogwarts Legacy, if you get chocolate early on in the game, hold on to it. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to attempt to play it vegan. I don't think it's going to be possible, is it? I like to play computer games vegan where I can, guys. I was able to do Skyrim fine. It's quite limited what you can do, but as long as you stock up on it and have a lot of stuff to carry. Minecraft I would always play as vegan when I was on the channel, I should say. Yeah, whenever I play these games, I do try to go vegan, do them vegan, and so we'll see if that's going to be an option. You know what? It might be. It might be. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know how much eating is going to be a thing in Hogwarts Legacy. It might not be a thing at all, quite frankly. Oh, potions now. Hang on, no. No. I'm not going to be able to do vegan because it basically means I'm not going to be able to use any potions. So unless we do a potionless run. Oh my goodness. It'd probably bring in the views. If the stream title is Potionless Run. God. Ah, no, am I going to have to commit to doing Hogwarts Legacy without using any bloody potions? You know what? I'll do it if it's an option. I'll do it if it's an option. It might be quite challenging though. Which is the point. Yes, so McGonagall refers to Madame Pomfrey as Poppy, which is very nice. Harry doesn't want to go to the hospital wing purely because of what Draco would say if he did. It's so... I've said it a million times in these reviews, guys, but the fact that Draco lives rent-free in Harry's head is so awesome, and it's just not represented in the movies until, I'd say, Prisoner of Azkaban. The first two movies, Harry basically forgets about Draco whenever he's not there. But in the books, the first two books, Draco is at the forefront of Harry's mind at all points. Like, seriously, he cannot get him out of his head. And so that's the main reason why he doesn't go to the hospital wing. And also because the feast is going on. That would be a disaster if you went to Hogwarts and missed out on a feast. Anyway. Hang on, it's magical food, so doesn't that mean that it's all vegan? Right? Doesn't, does it? Anyway, let's move on. And so yes, McGonagall wants to talk to Hermione about her timetable, and so sends Harry off. And Hermione emerges from the office, like looking really, really happy and everything. It's so interesting, guys. That's the time travel aspect of it. I know that I'm meant to cover these chapters, forgetting about what I know about the story, but it's so interesting how it's so heavily implied that Hermione's up to something at this point. And that she's appearing between classes, like her appearing in classes, like she does in the movie, doesn't really make any sense if you think about it. So her appearing between classes, and like there was a bit that's coming up where like they turn around to speak with Hermione and she's gone, and then she's at the end of the corridor. That makes sense. Not her appearing in the classroom and thinking, huh, what do you mean I've been here the whole time? Well, you haven't been here the whole time. Anyway, enough waffle. I need to stop comparing it to the movie so much, but I've got to do it a bit, though, guys. I do apologise. Anyway. Dumbledore mentions... oh, yeah, so, yeah, Dumbledore does say the whole thing about, do not, like, mess around with the Dementors. Do not do anything suspicious around them and everything. Do not, like, disguise yourself. The fact that they can... That they will indiscriminately attack people, essentially, and says even if you have an invisibility cloak. And he specifically says invisibility cloak, which you know is specifically being said for Harry, Hermione, and Ron. So that was a nice little line. That's in the book. Everyone that was in the carriage with Lupin during the Dementor attack, is clapping like hysterically when it turns out that he's the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher at his announcement. Everyone else is just like clapping politely. As with Hagrid when he gets appointed, like, I think everyone's like, yeah, great. But where Ron, Harry, and Hermione are like, oh, yeah, like that. You guys pointed out, God, man, the end of Chamber of Secrets to the movie, guys, I think is so bloody sweet. But you book readers don't see it the same way I do, guys. I think it's an incredibly sweet scene. Yes, it goes on a bit. Even when watching, I was thinking, okay, this is quite long. But it is so sweet. And, Hogwarts is nothing like Hugh, Hagrid, and everything like that. You guys did point out something which is just very, very true. And you have to remember that I have seen these movies originally, guys. The fact that the rest of the school, as a whole, wouldn't have the affection for Hagrid that those three students do. And so the fact that Hagrid's coming in and there's this huge, celebration of Hagrid coming back, to book readers seems a little off. That being said, I think it's such a bloody beautiful scene. I really do. The only thing that would have made it better, and I think I even said this in my Chamber of Secrets movie reaction, is when they're all applauding and everything, and then the flying car that Ron and Harry left in, which drove off into the Forbidden Forest, came wobbling in, all clean, like RTD2 at the end of A New Hope. If you haven't seen A New Hope, just go watch it, guys. It's a blooming excellent movie. I know there's a lot of people who hold off on watching Star Wars movies, but A New Hope is just a wonderful fairy tale in space. That's the best way I can put it. It's my favourite Star Wars movie. Anyway, enough waffle. But yes, it's very interesting reading your comments about that last scene in Chamber of Secrets, guys. And the way the camera's like zooming out of the hall and then over Hogwarts, and then the music and everything. I thought it's just such a beautiful end to the movie. So book readers not having that... Book readers not seeing that moment as beautiful as I do is so fascinating. But you made some very clear points, guys, and I can understand fully why you don't have that sense of love for that moment. Yeah. Anyway, we need to get through this, guys, because I've taken a long time in this chapter. Snape staring at Lupin with a face of loathing. Obviously, us knowing the full history, or at least much of the history, know why that really is. But Harry is essentially putting it down to the fact that he wanted to be the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, whereas we know there's a lot more to it, obviously. So when Hagrid is announced as being the care of the magical creatures teacher, Ron straight away does say, who else would set us a biting book. So presumably the Monster Book of Magic... No, the Monster Book of Monsters is not usually on the curriculum. In fact, I think Hagrid says that he thinks that they're funny, in fact. But yes, apparently they're not usually a Hogwarts read, apparently. Even for third years. Now, because Hagrid is now a professor, I question, would Hagrid now be allowed a wand? Because I don't know if I'd want a professor at Hogwarts to not have a wand with them. Just in case, particularly magical creatures, in fact. To not have a wand, just in case if something goes wrong. That being said, he hasn't had his full education, so that might be why he wouldn't be allowed a wand. But presumably there is adult education for wizards. There would have to be. So I don't know. I don't think we ever see Hagrid with a wand in the movies. But now that he's a professor, would you not want your professor to have a wand just in case if something goes wrong? Particularly in magical creatures, like I say. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments for that. And finally, Hagrid says that his appointment is all down to Harry, Ron and Hermione, which is very, very sweet. He's actually really emotional as well, and he does say that it's all down to Harry, Ron and Hermione that he actually has been given this chance. I have got another note down here now, guys, and we discussed it briefly on Twitter, and from what I gather, I'm an idiot. But I have got down here, when I was talking about adult education and everything, can 2 muggles have a squib child? In my headcanon, yes they can, but apparently I'm an idiot. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. We're not going to go too much into that right now, but let me know your thoughts in the comments regarding, can 2 muggles have a squib child? I think yes. Apparently that makes me an idiot. Let's move over. No one's called me an idiot, by the way. Let's move over to Chapter 6, Talons and Tea Leaves. Look, all I'm saying is, scientifically, can a muggle and a squib realistically be exactly the same thing? And if they are, then is squib just like not an insult, but it's like a casual term used for muggles that just happen to be born of wizarding folk? Anyway, let's get on with the description. So, Chapter 6, Talons and Tea Leaves. Just pouring out another drink. Harry's first day of school gets off to a bad start when a bunch of Slytherins make fun of him for passing out on the train. But Fred and George tell Harry to cheer up as they hand out the class schedules. Ron and Harry are confused over how jam-packed Hermione's schedule is. It looks like she'll be taking 3 classes at once, but Hermione dismisses Ron and Harry's questions. The 3 friends head off to Divination, which is a long way off in the castle. On the way, they meet a portrait of a knight named Sir Cadogan, isn't it? Cadogan, who acts like he's starring in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Now, Max, that's a very interesting point you've made there. Because there's something in the movie which is a direct reference, but we'll get to it. We will get to it, which is not in the book, but the movie absolutely has a direct reference to it. He does get the gang to the elusive North Tower, at least, and everyone heads into Divination class. Professor Sybil Trelawney proves to be quite the mystical nut. She makes vague predictions as everyone practice reading tea leaves, and then predicts Harry's imminent death, since there is a grim in his tea leaves. On that note, the class is dismissed. Everyone is freaked out by Trelawney, except for Hermione, who thinks she is a total quack. Good turn. Next, the Gryffindors head to Transfiguration, taught by Professor McGonagall. McGonagall is an animagus, which I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, which means she can transform into an animal, a cat in her case. The class doesn't react much to her transformation, and she wants to know why. The class tells her that they just came back from the first divination class, and to which McGonagall asks which of them is going to die, and tells them that Trelawney always predicts that will happen to a student each year. Finally, Gryffindor and Slytherin meet up for the care of magical creatures, not care against the magical creatures. That's what they'd be teaching in America. in Fantastic Beasts. Hagrid is nervous and is set back when everyone complains about the crazy textbook, the Monster Book of Monsters, which have already tried to eat everyone. While we'll never complain about heavy textbooks again, very true. Things are looking up for Hagrid. When he presents his lesson, the Hippogriff, which is half bird, half horse. Hagrid describes Hippogriffs as easily offended and warns never to insult one, "'cause it might be the last thing you do." Max did ask for a Hagrid voice. There we go. Harry volunteers to approach the Hippogriff first out of loyalty for Hagrid. He bows to one called Buckbeak, which eventually bows back. Then Hagrid plops Harry onto Buckbeak, who takes Harry for a bumpy flight around the paddock. Harry's glad when it's over and the class begins to bow to Hippogriffs, but Malfoy and his friends act like punks again. Malfoy's Hippogriff gets insulted and slashes at Malfoy's arm. Everyone freaks out and Hagrid rushes Malfoy off to the infirmary. That evening, the trio visit Hagrid to cheer him up. Hagrid is grateful, but then yells at them for letting Harry wander around after dark and escorts them back to the castle. So whenever I do these reviews, I always have to refer back to the movies just to refresh myself what is in it and isn't. And this chapter here really is one where it's one of those where Hermione's done better in the book. So I'm just going to say it like that. We will get to it. But yes, there are certain bits in the movie where she just comes off as nasty, in my opinion. But anyway, let's get into it anyway. It's definitely her reaction to Trelawney is a lot more like frustration and anger of having to be taught something that she doesn't believe in, essentially. Whereas in the movie, she's just like rolling her eyes and everything. Anyway, I thought Hermione in the movies is brilliant, guys, but each book is like Hermione is definitely done better in the book. But either way, let's go on to my notes. And so it's the next day. Draco is doing impersonations of Harry fainting, which is amazing. We hear about Pansy Parkinson, who, weirdly enough, I think the first time I've ever heard about her, because I don't think this is the first time she's been mentioned in the book, I'm pretty sure. The first time I ever heard about her was in the Harry Potter musical, very recently, in fact. And so she's here. It does say that she's got a face like a pug, and it genuinely does bother me, guys. And it does bother me that all the female Slytherins are immediately described by their face, by their looks, by their face. You know. Sure, Crabbe and Goyle are to an extent, but it's usually about their physique as well and everything, where, I don't know. I don't know why it bothers me. It does bother me, but that in these books, it's, you know, your appearance dictates if you're a good or bad person, you know what I mean? But anyway, it's just something which I jotted down. So yes, I met Pansy in a very musical, coincidentally. I think that she is in the movie, but doesn't look like as described here. I believe so. George actually says to Harry how Draco came into their compartment during the Dementors' attack, I guess you'd call it, and about that he was also freaking out as well. I don't know if that's actually true. I don't know if George is just saying that to cheer up Harry potentially, but I mean, it could be true. There's no reason why not to believe it. But also, I think it is also... Fred and George are very good at cheering Harry up, even if it's in a way of, like, kind of embarrassing him at the same time. And so I think that they'd be willing to kind of half lie to just cheer Harry up in this situation. But apparently Draco entered their compartment as the Dementors were coming in, and apparently he was freaking out as well. Fred and George know all about the Dementors, guys, and this is what I was saying previously, how it appears Ron doesn't. But Fred and George know it because Arthur had visited Azkaban before. They say how Azkaban itself, with all the Dementors and everything, actually makes people mad, which is very interesting how it's a prison for criminals, which then makes you insane as well. It's not good. But then again, it's the Ministry, and the Ministry aren't exactly, you know, they're not exactly blameless when it comes to these sort of things either. Ron is questioning Hermione's timetable again. Hermione's getting very frustrated with it. It's like, I get the impression that McGonagall has said, entrusted her with the device and said, but don't let anyone else know. And so Ron asking all these questions, Hermione's actually getting properly frustrated with it. Again, in the movie, it's just a little bit, she's just like kind of condescending to Ron, like saying, oh, don't be so silly, Ronald. Whereas in the book, she's actually getting really quite annoyed with Ron asking all the questions. In fact, at some point in this chapter, they will actually stop talking to each other. It gets so heated. Hagrid enters the dining hall and he's like, it says that he's casually swinging a polecat without even thinking. I had to actually look up what that is, guys. Now, apparently it's a type of ferret, or it's similar to a ferret. And now I realise that, having watched the movie scenes back, it's what he is feeding Buckbeak with. And so that's like a nice little kind of reference to the class that's going to be coming up. I thought that was actually really quite clever. So yes, now it's time for Divination, which I'm sure I'm saying wrong. And on the way there, they had to go up the very tall North Tower that they've never been up before. They're getting basically lost, and Harry just notices that there's a knight. There's a horse without a rider, and then like a knight like comes like stumbling in, and he's like falling over there, a very clumsy knight. And we see this knight in the movie, guys. Now, as Max said, acts like he's in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. There isn't a direct reference in the book to the Holy Grail. I kind of felt like there was going to be. But in the movie, there is a straight-up reference to it. Now, you know, is it straight after? I think it is. I think it's straight after the welcoming feast. All the students are heading back they're heading to, I should say, their common rooms. And like the Dawn French, the fat lady is singing in the doorway, and then in the background behind Harry, so in front of the fat lady, there's loads of paintings like moving around and everything, and there is a knight traveling between them, and he's like pretending to ride a horse. The fact that he's pretending to ride a horse, there's no question, guys. The fact that he's pretending to ride a horse is definitely a direct reference to Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I highly recommend Monty Python and the Holy Grail, guys. It is incredibly silly comedy from the 60s as well. 60s or 70s. It would have been late 60s, early 70s, I would imagine. I should know this. I think it's very late 60s. It's extremely silly humour. I presume many of you would have heard references to it, like quotes from it before, without knowing. If you ever heard anyone say tis but a flesh wound, I should say, tis but a flesh wound, that is a reference to the Holy Grail. But in it, that basically, because the Monty Python, and like the movie makers and everything, didn't have a very big budget, they couldn't afford horses, and so instead everyone like walks around like this as if they're riding horses. And so in the movie, that is a direct reference to Monty Python. In the book, he doesn't do it. In fact, he's actually furious at Harry. He's like calling him all sorts of names under the sun and everything, until Harry like says, can you help us get up the North Tower or to Divination? And straight away, Sir Cadogan is like, a quest! And like just starts, he just runs. He just like starts running between all the paintings, and Harry, Hermione, and Ron have to like chase after him to see where he's going, and he does successfully get him there. And so that was so nice. I really like this scene, and I'm so glad that Sir Cadogan is in the movie, even if that scene wasn't, because that scene is wonderful, quite frankly. But that scene I thought was in the book was great, and it's nice that he's at least referenced in the movie, because I thought it was hilarious. As Sir Cadogan like says, call me if you need any help, and Ron quietly says to himself, we'll call you if we ever need someone mental. Ron is using the word mental a lot in this book, he really is, but you know, them's the times. So then we get to Trelawney's class, and it's a very good intro. It's a really nice description of her class, the fact it's incredibly cramped at the top of this tower, and she like comes out from behind like a veil, I think, or something like that. It's tantamount to creepy. Again, I don't want to reference the movies too much. I will put a cork on that, guys. But in the movie, it's definitely meant to be a lot more funny. Like, she like walks into a table, and I think like some students start laughing and everything, whereas everyone's kind of freaked out by Trelawney, from her appearance. She says that she very rarely goes down the tower. She basically stays up the tower. Because going amongst other people clouds her inner eye, which is fascinating. It's very interesting that she basically stays up this tower, keeping herself to herself. She does say that the divination can only be taught to those who have the sight, which is very interesting. And I think this is half part of the reason why Hermione's calling BS on this. Is that's the sort of thing. Like when someone tries a magic trick, or or mind reading, or a medium trying to speak to ghosts and everything. A common excuse would, when the trick is unsuccessful, a common excuse is, oh, it's because you didn't believe, or it's because you don't have the right chi, or something like that. It's very sort of it's everyone else's fault. I'm legit. And so that's, I feel like, one of the reasons why Hermione... I mean, to be fair, the first thing that takes Hermione back is Trelawney saying that it's either you do have the sight or you don't. Textbooks aren't really going to help you very much in this class. And at that point, Hermione looks visibly startled by the fact that she won't be able to use books to her full advantage. And so that is the first time where Hermione starts to get a little bit resentful of Trelawney. We do have the line where she goes up to Neville and says, "How's your grandmother?" And he says she's fine, and says, I wouldn't be so sure about that, dear. And also goes up to Pravati and says, "Beware a red-haired man." Yeah, Pravati, yes. And Pravati immediately looks over to Ron and scoots her seat away from Ron. It's just mean, just rude. It's Padma that Ron goes to the dance with, isn't it? And so it's not a reference to that. So I don't know if it's going to be something else that happens in this book. I mean, quite frankly, it said red-headed man. It could be Fred George. It could be Percy. It could very likely be Percy. I hope this pays off. Because Pravati just looking straight at Ron and getting freaked out is just rude, quite frankly. But yeah, I did have to double check, and it is Padma that Ron takes to the dance in Goblet, though. Trelawney warns that there's going to be a flu that will be hitting Hogwarts in February, and that she's going to be losing her voice. And she says around Easter, one of our number will leave us forever. She doesn't seem to, whenever she says these things, she doesn't seem to be. It's not like a warning. She's just telling them as if it's just a bit of information which they might be interested in, So I keep doing this, guys. I realised that I hadn't put any oil in my beard before starting the video. So yes, I'm rattling my brain to think if that's going to be something which is going to be obvious in Prisoner of Azkaban, but I can't think of anyone who's going to be leaving their number unless she means Harry potentially dying. But it can't be that because obviously at this point she doesn't know that Harry has the Grim, so I'm sure that'll pay off though. Potentially. Obviously not everything that she says is right, according, as we find out with McGonagall. She tells Lavender that the thing that she's been dreading will happen on Friday the 16th of October. I'm amazed that she's allowed to tell the students all this stuff, guys. Maybe she's not. Maybe she's not. Maybe she's. Maybe you'd imagine that her classes are at least scanned to an extent. But she shouldn't be saying all this stuff, unless she thinks that telling Lavender that is going to be comforting, or maybe telling Neville that her grandmother isn't that well is so he can actually action it and getting. So, to go and see a doctor, or the magical equivalent. Warlock, I guess it would be. So yeah, that could be the reason, I guess. Beware of the red-headed man. Could be legitimately looking out for Pavati. But again, the morality behind that is very questionable, as McGonagall does say later on. She does say to Neville that once you break that blue cup, you please. Once you break your current cup, please choose a blue one because she's fond of the pink ones. But that sort of thing's fine because that's obviously like school equipment and everything, warning him about that. It's very interesting that she says to him to choose a blue one. Because that means that she is able to influence the future, which means that the future is influenced on the past. And so maybe that is the reason why she's telling all these other people, so they can then action it to have a happier outcome. Because that's very interesting, actually. The cup in specific that is interesting. Because if she knows that the mug is going to be broken, the cup is going to be broken, then surely she wouldn't have that much control over Neville being able to choose a blue cup over a pink one. But her saying it means that he does. But her saying it also doesn't mean that the original cup is any more less likely to get broken. I'm not making any sense here, guys. I'm sorry. But I'm just trying to work out exactly the reasoning for her saying it and how much power her words are actually having on the potential futures, rather than what is absolutely set in stone. So yes, then we have the nice thing which is in the movie as well, where it's actually Harry saying to Ron rather than Ron saying to Harry, you're going to be going up for some trials and suffering. In fact, when Harry says that, he says, sorry about that. I think he's being sarcastic. But then we have the wonderful line about you got to suffer, but you got to enjoy it or like it. And like I say, that's Harry saying it to Ron and everything. Ron then looks at Harry's and sees what he thinks is a bowler hat and thinks that it means that he's going to be in for like a windfall of money. But then Trelawney takes a look and sees a falcon. Hermione is seeming very angry at this point. In fact, straight up rude, like actually saying things out loud and everything. And so that's right. No, so the falcon means that that you have a sworn enemy essentially, and Hermione like angrily like says, "Well, everyone knows that." Actually at Trelawney, which is like wow. I mean that Trelawney actually just like ignores her at that point as well. But then whilst Trelawney's looking into the cup even more, she then starts screaming. And refuses to say what she saw, and everyone like gathers around Harry's table, and then she does say that it is the Grim, the giant spectral dog that haunts churchyards, how it's the omen of death. Weirdly enough, I've tried to work out why this is. Only Lavender and Dean seem to be the ones who don't know what that means. Which is bizarre. Why specifically Lavender and Dean? Unless I heard that wrong, guys, I'm sure that it said that Lavender and Dean were particularly the two that didn't know what any of that meant. Obviously, Dean didn't realise that he was a wizarding folk until a couple of years ago, but I believe Lavender Brown is from a family of wizards, right? I believe that she's pureblood. So that's confusing to me. I feel like I've missed a point there, so I'm sure you'll fill me in. It definitely goes into more explaining what the Grim actually is. In the movie, it's like a kid's like reading it at the textbook and actually saying it over to the class, which is very nice of him. But we certainly hear more about what the Grim actually is in the book. And Ron definitely looks freaked out about it. He won't even look Harry in the face, in fact, coming up. And so yeah, Hermione is just being straight up rude to Trelawney, but definitely in a lot more frustrated, annoyed way. Whereas in the movie, she's all like that. In the book, she's clearly rattled about the fact that not everyone has an equal opportunity to be great at the class, which is obviously kind of what Hermione works on. And that it isn't that books are essentially going to be useless up to a point in this class. So she's actually really frustrated with Trelawney, and Trelawney, like Terzo says, you have no aura. So basically, say that Hermione isn't able to do the class properly, which could also be basically saying that you're not a believer or you're not susceptible to my BS. And so it's all the way that you see what... Truly, I'm sorry that I keep on referencing the movie, guys. I need to stop doing this, because I did get a comment last time saying that I do it too much. But surely in the movie, after that scene, I was thinking, okay, she's a crackpot. She doesn't know what she's talking about. In the book, you definitely get the feeling that she's more onto it than she actually is. But then again, in the movie, you don't have the following class where McGonagall basically says you can ignore what she says. So that's probably why they did it a bit differently. Made her less believable, I guess, in the movie. So Harry, after listening to all these people talking about the Grim and all that, he says, if you're all done trying to work out if I'm going to die or not, making everyone like feel very, very awkward. In fact, I think everyone like kind of starts to go back to their desk and everything, and Ron's like not even looking at him at this point. And so yeah, it's a really, I liked the extent of how much more fleshed out the book version of this scene is. Definitely feels very, very different. And like I say, Hermione's, when I watch it back, and this is the thing, guys, I didn't feel like this when I first watched it, but I don't know, the fact that she's like really sarcastically rolling her eyes is essentially what oh man, am I going to say this? Oh my goodness. It's essentially what Draco's doing in Hagrid's lesson. There you go. I look forward to the battle royal in the comment section, but it is Draco's being like really sarcastic. Oh yeah, this is really funny and all that about the Boggarts monsters. How is that different from what Hermione's doing in the movie? All right. Whereas in the book, she's so much. It's clear that a nerve has been hit. In fact, it actually does say that in this chapter with Hermione. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want these videos to just be a comparison of Hermione in a book and Hermione in a movie, guys, but it's interesting. It's a big talking point. It really is. At least I think it's interesting. Anyway, if you don't, I apologize. So let's move on. So yes, we hear about McGonagall, and McGonagall like turns into the cat, which is interesting. That because obviously one of the first things that we experience in the book is McGonagall turning from a cat into her human form. But at this point, the class don't know that McGonagall can actually do it, and so when she turns into a cat, she's expecting like a round of applause. In fact, she actually says that it's the first time that she hasn't gotten applause from it. But everyone is so freaked out from Trelawney's class. Oh man, who is it? I can't remember who. I feel like it's Pravati or Lavender or someone mentions to McGonagall that's why, because we're all freaked out about what we just heard about Harry and so on. Well, no, she doesn't say that, because McGonagall then does say which one of you's going to die this year, and says that she definitely doesn't believe in Trelawney's skills. It definitely feels like that's the case, and says how like Trelawney predicts a death each year and it never comes true and everything. I'm wondering how divination is really seen by other wizards in general in that case. Because it's possible that it's possible that Hermione had read about divination, and divination not being something that a lot of wizards believe in. Because if McGonagall doesn't believe in it, or maybe McGonagall just doesn't think that Trelawney's a very good teacher, maybe. So that could be another reason why she's a bit resistant to it as well. But yeah. She says to Harry that that she won't let. McGonagall says that I won't let you off your homework, but if you die, then you won't need to hand it in, which gets a laugh out of Hermione. And so then we go to lunchtime, guys. And Ron actually asked Harry if he's seen a large black dog, and he knows all about this Grim business, and it's clearly quite freaked him out. He says that Uncle Bilious saw a large black dog once and then died within 24 hours. Hermione's absolutely not having any of it, and Ron's getting angry at Hermione for it, because this is Ron's life. This is it's Ron's family, quite frankly, with Uncle Bilious, of course. But it's the world that Ron is completely used to, much like when, like, he'd bring up, like, the different characters and everything that he knows about from the Wizarding World, and, like, Hermione and Harry are like, no idea what you're talking about, you know? And so for Hermione to really downplay the Grim, not what Trelawney was saying specifically, but the actual Grim itself, is taking Ron back a bit, and so they're actually really starting to get quite heated towards each other. Hermione does make a very good point, and says that it was Bill's fear of the Grim that killed him, rather than the Grim itself, and so it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Is that the right term? Where it's the Grim is the cause, not the omen. And so, if you're told that seeing this thing's going to happen, then you're going to freak out so much that you're going to, you know, become unwell, you know. So that is a very good point from Hermione, I must admit. She says how divination is very woolly, which is a line in the movie as well. And Ron says this line. I wish this line was in the movie, because it would have changed Hermione's condensation. The condescending tone that Hermione is giving to Trelawney in the movie would have been completely wiped out by this line that Ron says here. You just don't like being rubbish at something for a change. And that's when Hermione goes nuts. She doesn't go nuts, but she, like, slams a book on the lunch table, like Stu, like, goes flying into the air, apparently. Yeah, she's furious by that line, which definitely suggests that that's the real reason why Hermione, that we know from the book, guys, would... It's like... I'm trying to think of an example, but, like, saying, like, oh man, I don't know. I was going to say, like, a type of Quidditch that Harry wouldn't be good at, but obviously that would never happen, would it? Hermione defines herself as being a very good student. And there is a class where she's essentially been told from that out point, you are not going to be good at this, and other students are going to be better than you at it. And that is going to be hard for Hermione to take, because she's putting not overtime, but literally multiple timelines into being good at all these classes, and she's just been told in the first class that she's not going to be any good at this one. I feel like that line, you just don't like it because you just don't like being rubbish at something for a change. Would have been a really good line to put into the movie. I really do, because at this point Ron is the comedy guy, which I know I do that face a lot for Ron now. And Hermione at this point in the movies has definitely started to change a lot, and I just feel like that line there would have brought them back to the characters that we've experienced in the previous books, at least, anyway. But yeah, I'm rambling, guys, but I thought that was an important line, which I feel like would have been a nice... I think it would have been nice. Anyway. And this is only because I freaking love book Hermione. This is the only reason why I'm saying on this, guys, because I feel like that the fact that she then exposes the fact that she is clearly very flustered by the fact that she's not going to be able to be very good at this class, but also probably doesn't believe any of the stuff anyway as well. So anyway, moving on. So we go to the care of magical creatures. It's in like a paddock. Now, which is like traditionally like a wooden thing for horses, like an area for horses, I should say. Hagrid is like completely surprised that no one's worked out how to open the Monster Book of Monsters. Everyone has different ways that they've got theirs all taped up. Hermione has used Spello tape, which is a nice callback to Chamber of Secrets with Ron's broken wand and everything. Hagrid says that he thought that the books were funny, and so that's why he got them all to get them. And oh man, I'm doing it again. I'm comparing it to the movie so much, guys. But in the movie, it's so weird. It's like they're like walking along, like talking about the books and everything, and Hermione just says, "I think they're funny," And that's when Draco goes into a sarcastic, oh yeah, really funny. But it's actually Hagrid in the book who says, I think that they're funny. And is like surprised that everyone else doesn't. And Draco being sarcastic then really hits Hagrid's confidence at the start of his first lesson. Really like hits him for 6 and like kind of embarrasses him. So Draco's like go really ridiculously sarcastic at him. We do have the line where like where Harry like defends Hagrid and Draco like says yeah, there's a dementor behind you, Harry, which okay, I'm sorry whoever it is who said about not comparing too much to the movie. I just do it naturally. This, I think, is the first example of Harry actually getting humiliated in the movies. Because it's something, particularly in Chamber of Secrets. Chamber of Secrets, from start to finish, is basically Harry getting humiliated in front of people. It really is. It really genuinely is. Especially with Lockhart, but with lots of other things as well. With, like, the Valentine dwarf and everything like that. It's like so many moments I've been getting embarrassed. And there were moments in the first book where he's getting completely embarrassed as well. Whereas it really has been the case that Harry in the movie has not been embarrassed, I think, at all until this point. And so this change is actually really good. The movie version doesn't have Draco like says, oh, there's a dementor behind you. Draco's like going, dementor, dementor, like that, and makes Harry look. And then all the Slytherins start laughing at him. That's the sort of thing which, I mean, I think that is the first example of Harry actually being humiliated in the movies, and so great choice, great change in my opinion. So there are multiple hippogriffs in the book, all different colours. They've all got collars on as well, which makes sense. So yeah, different coloured hippogriffs, very nice. Harry actually puts himself forward to approach the hippogriff because no one else will, and because Draco had just basically humiliated Hagrid by with his sarcasm. Harry is stepping forward because he wants to he wants to help Hagrid with his class. Whereas obviously in the movie, it's the funny bit where everyone steps back and Harry's the only one who's still forward. Again, another humiliating moment for Harry, but that's all good. So yeah, Harry does put himself forward, and immediately Parvati and Lavender like remind him, like saying about what the Grimm said and everything. Oh my goodness, I've just jumped forward so far. Yeah, so yeah, what follows is very accurate, where he like bows down and everything. As I remember, Hagrid doesn't actually pick up Harry in the book, or maybe he does, but Harry has to be very careful not to pull out Buckbeak's feathers and everything. And then we have the wonderful moments of Harry flying around. Harry in the book is certainly not as happy as he is in the movie. In fact, like Max said, he's actually really glad when it's over, and everyone's actually applauding apart from Draco and his gang, obviously. And then we have like a calm bit where everyone just pops up and they're all like singing to their own hippogriffs. I think that Ron and Hermione are. I think that they are bowing to the bronze one. There's a pink one as well. But yes, Draco then does insult Buckbeak. And you know what? Watching the movie, and I will try and stop talking about the movie, but watching the movie, I thought that the reason why Buckbeak got freaked out is because Draco was walking up to him. It is straight up because he's insulting him. Draco is basically stroking the hippogriff as he starts to insult it, and when when he insults it, that's when we get the hippogriff attacking him. Thinking about it, is it Buckbeak? It must be Buckbeak. I think it is Buckbeak. It would have to be. But yeah, it's not like Draco just walking straight up to the hippogriff, like freak the hippogriff out, which is genuinely what I thought it was. The hippogriff is getting, or Buckbeak is literally getting stroked by Draco when he starts to insult him. Oh, Buckbeak, I should say. And so that's why it attacked. So Hagrid was absolutely right on that. The injury sounds much worse in the book. I think there's blood going everywhere again. These books are very violent, blood-wise, guys. They really are. And so yeah, Hagrid scoops up Draco and takes him off, and he's doing the I'm dying, he killed me. It's amazing. So yes, I think it's like, I don't know if it's the next day or it's like that evening. The Slytherins are all like talking about Hagrid and like talking about like getting him sacked and everything, or saying that he should be sacked. So the three decide to visit Hagrid, who is completely smashed. He's completely drunk off his mind, which is a surprise. He thinks he's going to get sacked, and he's saying that it's all his fault and that he started too big. And like Harry, Ron, and Hermione like saying, no, that's not true at all. It's Draco's fault. I gotta say, guys, I'm kind of with Hagrid there. The thing with Hagrid is that he does stupid things, and that I know that Ron, Hermione, and Harry are always going to defend him to the hilt and everything, but at the same time, hippogriffs probably were a bad start. Oh man, am I being unfair on Hagrid? I know that he told them not to insult them, but there's a level of trust, you know. Maybe start off with something a little bit smaller, like a picket. Yeah, maybe start off with something a little bit smaller for your first couple of classes and then build up to it. But Hagrid says that he wanted to start off with something impressive, which who can blame him for that? So it is Draco's fault, but it is kind of negligent. Hagrid choosing hippogriffs for his first lesson, but anyway. They're both to blame, obviously. So yeah, Hermione like says that you shouldn't drink anymore, and like Hagrid goes and like sticks his head in like a water barrel or something, and like shakes it off, and he's like completely soaking, and then only realizes that Harry's there. He didn't know that Harry was there, but realizes that Harry shouldn't be there. He's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" I think he actually does say that. He's definitely very angry at Harry being out, and so basically marches them back to the school and everything. But yeah, it's funny that he only dawned on him that Harry shouldn't be there after he stopped drinking, after he'd had a hug with Harry, and dunked his head into some water. So that's that chapter. I'm sorry about all the comparisons to the movie, guys. It's just difficult to not do sometimes. But let's move on to the third chapter for today, which is chapter 7, I should say, the Boggart in the Wardrobe. I think I've kind of worked out the whole thing with Pansy, actually. You had to remember that this book is being told from the standpoint of Harry. So it's possible that Pansy actually doesn't have a face like a pug at all. But Harry is projecting that onto her because he doesn't like her because she's part of the gang that's making fun of her. So I guess that could be a fairer reasoning for it, rather than it just being, yeah, I know. I'm not making any sense. Just before we get started on Max's description, I just want to say that this chapter definitely should have been called Mummy and Dada. Right. It really should have been called Mummy and Dada. I would have loved that. Anyway, if you don't understand it, work it out. Right. Malfoy milks the injury for all it's worth and doesn't go to class for a few days. Gryffindor and Slytherin are in potions, when Snape forces Ron and Harry to help Malfoy prepare his potion. Meanwhile, Neville is botching yet another assignment due to his fear of Snape. We will discuss that. Snape threatens to try Neville's shrinking potion out on his toad. Trevor and Neville beg... sorry, guys. Try the potion out on his toad, Trevor. And Neville begs Hermione to help, since his potion will likely kill poor Trevor. Meanwhile, the class begin to discuss Sirius Black, and Malfoy goads Harry and drops hints about Sirius Black, which only confuses and annoys Harry. Finally, class is over, and Snape tries Neville's potion out on poor Toad Neville, which is some sort of animal rights violation. This is the big conversation, guys. You know what? I'm gonna give my original opinion, and then you can tell me why I'm wrong or right, or give me more perspective. But yes, this is the discussion that launched 1 million Patreon comments. The motion works, and Snape docks points from Gryffindor since Hermione helped Neville after he told her not to. To which makes Ron which makes Ron furious. Hermione suddenly disappears and reappears at the bottom of the stairs, which confuses Ron and him and Harry. Hermione is vague about everything, and then they're all distracted when Hermione's overloaded book bag bursts open. The Gryffindors head to Defense Against the Dark Arts, Dada, with the one and only Professor Lupin. He tells them to put their books away and takes them off to the staff room where a Boggart is lurking in a closet. Snape is there and snarkily insults the entire class on his way out, especially poor Neville. Lupin tells Snape that Neville is going to help him out with the lesson. During the class Q&A session, we learn that Boggarts are shapeshifters that appear as the thing the person fears most. The spell to defeat a Boggart is ridiculous. Basically, you have to think of something funny and force the Boggart to change into something non-threatening. Lupin asks Neville to what he's scared of, and poor Neville answers Professor Snape. Lupin instructs Neville to picture his grandmother's wares and wants Neville to focus on the Snape Boggart to appear wearing Grandma Longbottom's clothes. Neville manages to do it, and the class laughs loudly, confusing the Boggart. Harry gets increasingly nervous, though, since he knows that the Boggart is either going to turn into Voldemort or the Dementor. I added in Voldemort there because that is his initial thought. Lupin interrupts the Boggart just before turning to Harry and takes care of the Boggart himself. Lupin's Boggart appears as a silver orb. Curious. The class is psyched after this all this excitement, and I didn't change the blooming art. Okay, so thank you very much, Max, for your wonderful chapter summaries. They greatly help. And also thank you so much to Jonas for these wonderful side panels. They greatly help as well. So, here we go, guys. The thing is, like I say, I was getting all these emails through for the book club without actually reading the bulk of the emails. And I was starting to get nervous, thinking, what the heck happens in this chapter, guys? But we'll go into it. And I think my opinion's going to be quite different from a lot of you. And possibly different than you'd expect. It also doesn't help that I've watched the movies as well. We will go into it. We will go into it. But I look forward to seeing all your comments, guys. And if someone has a different opinion of you guys, it's fine. It's fine to have different opinions. No need to to draw out arguments or accuse people of not understanding things, if you know what I mean. But like I say, the book club is always very, very civil. So thank you so much for keeping it so in this book club. So here go my notes. So yes, it's double potions. Pansy getting yet another mention. Pansy's like the main star of these 3 chapters, guys. Seriously, she's getting a lot of airtime here. Ron is having to cut up Draco's ingredients. Harry as well. After oh man, I can't remember why, but Harry then has to also help Draco out as well. I think it's just because Draco's asking Snape to make them do it, basically. And he's got a massive smile on his face the entire time. You'd imagine that Snape knows exactly what's going on, but I don't think he's enjoying it, but he's just going along with what Draco says, basically. Yeah, Draco's definitely rubbing it in. We find out that potions is Neville's worst subject, and like Max says, it's probably because he's just scared of Snape. Because quite frankly, what we know about Neville, at least what I know about Neville anyway, is that he should be pretty damn good at potions, guys. Considering he's into herbology, they're kind of like intertwined, I would say. You're going to have to correct me there, but I feel like if it wasn't for Snape being the teacher, Neville would be pretty damn good at this lesson. That's just my opinion. So yes, Snape is complaining about Neville's being completely the wrong colour and everything, and going through all the things like saying, didn't I say this and didn't I say that and everything. Hermione offers to help Neville out, says to Snape, I can help him out, and Snape accuses her of trying to show off again, which I don't think she was. I think we're well past that. I feel like that is Philosopher's Stone Hermione. where Hermione really wants to show everyone else that she's better than they are at certain things. And obviously have like the love of the teachers and everything, which obviously not going to be the case with Snape. I think that's mellowed now, and she's just trying to help out a fellow Gryffindor and a friend in Neville. And yes, Snape's having none of it. Accused of showing off, and so that was an interesting line where at one point it would have been Hermione trying to show off. And it really goes back to what I was saying last chapter about the fact that she's not going to be good at divination. I don't think that's Philosopher's Stone Hermione wanting to be the best so she can be seen to be the best. That's just Hermione being a natural, someone who consumes knowledge very well, being told that you can't consume knowledge because you're not of a certain kind, Anyway, I'm not sure if that made any sense anyway. So yes, and then Snape threatens to feed the potion to Trevor, guys. So we will get into that when we get to it. Seamus tells Harry that the Daily Prophet tells Harry that the Daily Prophet is reporting that Black has been sighted by a Muggle. Draco overhears this and says, "You're not going to try and catch them single-handedly." I guess sarcastic, or at least goading, definitely goading, in fact, to Harry. And Harry just replies saying, "Yeah, that's right." Draco says that if it were him, that he would be out for revenge against Black. And so clearly Draco knows the whole story well, not the whole story obviously, but knows a lot more than most do about Black. Which is interesting. I guess that could kind of make sense. With his dad feeding him the information, maybe. Or maybe he's just winding him up. Maybe he doesn't know anything at all. But, it definitely sounds like he does know at least, the what is known to be the real the reason for Black's incarceration. So yes, Trevor's toad. Snape does take a bit of the potion and feeds it to the toad, and says that it's now this is the important part. He says that it's either going to shrink to the size of a tadpole, or shrink to a tadpole, in fact he says, or it will be poisoned. Now, that line is key. Just want to get up to date on my notes just before we go heavy into it. So yes, the potion does shrink Trevor to a tadpole. And straight away Snape deducts 5 points from Gryffindor because Hermione obviously had helped Trevor out. Now, this, from what I gather, guys, what just happened is the big controversy that people were talking about in the book club. And we'll be getting to your comments after this, guys. I'm really looking forward to seeing your opinions on this. You had to remember that I know Snape more, even now, more as the movie version than the book. I do try my best to completely blank out the movie version. So, I will try to blank out the movie version when I discuss about the idea of Snape having a good side, is what I'm saying. Snape, a large part of potions is going to be poisoning and curing. Now, Snape says that Trevor, I'm not defending him in the slightest, guys. I think you know I'm a massive animal lover. Snape says that it will either be shrunk to the size of a tadpole or it will be poisoned. He doesn't say, or it will die, or it will be killed by what you've done, Neville. He says it will be poisoned. Now, if I was poisoned, out of everyone aside from Dumbledore in the entirety of Hogwarts, I would want Snape there to help. So, my headcanon here, and we know how he reacted in the last book where everyone got burns and everything, and boils and stuff. He was like, right, everyone get into a queue if you got hit, and get straight on to trying to cure people. I think that in Snape's headcanon, I think that Snape is going to basically humiliate Neville by saying, yep, you see, it didn't work, cures it. That's what I interpret this, what would have happened if Trevor had been poisoned. A lot of you could be completely disagreeing with that. You may be saying, well, hang on, potions involves a lot of probably frogs' legs and lots of different animals and everything. Why would he care about Trevor the Toad? Because Trevor is Neville's creature. And so Snape would get into trouble if he started to knowingly do things that will lead to these animals getting killed. There's no way he wouldn't get into trouble with that, guys. You've got to remember, Dumbledore is the head here. And so Snape, I don't believe that Snape would think that he would be getting a free pass with Dumbledore if he started killing people's pets. And so I believe that Snape is feeding the poison. Trevor would probably start like rolling around or something. Certainly not nice. Certainly, definitely very, very cruel. Definitely something beyond me. I'll jump to my next note, guys. If I was Neville in this situation, as soon as I'm going to start getting emotional here, guys. But if Snape said something like that, threatened a pet of mine like that in class, I don't care how scared of him, I would be out of that door with Trevor. There's no way I would freak out. There's no way I would sit there and then just try and complete the task, you know. But back to what we're talking about with Snape. I don't think that Snape was telling Neville. In Snape's sadistic mind, and he is sadistic, guys. Of course he's sadistic. In Snape's mind, it wasn't, you do this or your loved one dies. It's, you do this or you're going to hurt your loved one and Muggins here is going to have to save it for you. That's the pressure that he's trying to put onto Neville to get it right. Or maybe he's just a sadist, guys. Maybe he's just torturing him. But even if he is just psychologically torturing Neville, I still don't think he was going to let Trevor die. That is my opinion, which I'm sure you guys could fill me in correctly. It's incredibly cruel. This is the bit which is gonna get comments. It is more cruel, but how much crueler is it than McGonagall letting Ron attempt to make Scabbers into a chalice with a broken wand? Wow, I've just started a massive argument in the comments, haven't I? I haven't, guys. You guys never argue. That's the thing which I love about it. You guys are always so respectful to each other. Even when the back and forth gets a little heated, they're still being respectful, and that's the main thing. If there was only one way of interpreting all of this, guys, there'd be no point in doing these videos. There's so many different ways you can interpret all these different aspects of these books. But when I got past this bit, I was like, wait, was that the bit that caused all those back and forths? Because honestly, guys, in my headcanon, Snape was doing it to embarrass and scare Neville before curing Trevor. Because, like I say, out of everyone at Hogwarts, aside from Dumbledore, I would want Snape there if I was poisoned. So I think that maybe even when he walked back to his desk after scolding, not literally, but scolding Neville, maybe he put together an antidote straight away, ready for it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. And it's very, very possible that I've missed the point of a lot of these back and forths, because like I say, I haven't read them. We'll be reading them in a bit. But that is my initial take on that scene. So now I'm all over the place. Snape, I think he was embarrassing rather than Neville, and rather scaring him for his life. No, I think he was trying to scare Neville, definitely. If I were Neville, I would have left the class, absolutely. And yeah, that would have been too much for me, quite frankly. would cost the Longbottoms money to replace Trevor, Snape would get into trouble. Yes, this is the thing. If you take the emotional side out of it completely, replacing Trevor, which is something which the Longbottoms would most definitely want to do, would cost the Longbottoms money. And this isn't Draco insulting a hippogriff seconds after being told not to insult a hippogriff. This is Neville doing his best whilst being terrified of the teacher. So Snape would absolutely get into trouble with Dumbledore. I think. Yes, McGonagall getting Ron to turn Scabbers into a chalice. Anyway, which is not as bad as feeding what is potentially poison to Trevor, I admit, but there is a comparison, though, you know. So yes, Hermione disappears in the hallway as they're walking along, and then it appears in front of them. It's really laying on thick that is something going on with Hermione here, which is cool. She's like tucking something into a robe as she's like walking up to them again. Over to the Defense Against the Dark Arts class, and Lupin leads the students out of the classroom. On the way, he bumps into Peeves. They all bump into Peeves, who starts calling Lupin Loony Lupin, which you got to imagine is something that Peeves used to call Lupin when he was at Hogwarts, definitely. So yeah, like Peeves is putting chewing gum inside Filch's a key lock to his broom cupboard. Inside Harry's mind, again, this is from Harry's point of view, it describes Filch as a bad-tempered, failed wizard. Now, there is definitely some spice on that sentence there, guys. Definitely some salt. Because he's not a failed wizard. Oh, man. I find scripts so blooming interesting. I really do, guys. I find them fascinating. Always have done. And I've always found Filch a fascinating character as well. Filch is not a failed wizard. Imagine telling someone, because a wizard is not a profession, guys. A wizard, in this universe, a wizard is not a job. A wizard is your existence. It is what you are. So to describe a squib as a failed wizard, I think is tantamount of discrimination. Oh, I'm going to get all the comments in the world now, guys. I really am. I genuinely... You can't call a squib a failed wizard. Harry's a kid. Has reason to really not like Filch. So again, he is projecting that mindset onto what he sees Filch being. But you can't call Filch a failed squib. Guys, that's something that Slytherins would say. Some Slytherins. Yeah, I've got down here, there's a very snobby thing for Harry to think like that. But again, he's had some horrible history with Filch, and he is still a kid. So Lupin does a spell to make the chewing gum fly up Peeves' nose, which is horrible. And Peeves goes flying off. So they get to the staff room. So obviously in the movie, it's the dark arts classroom, isn't it? But they get to the staff room. And Snape is chilling out in there, which I was wondering why that is. I was thinking, hang on, is it already the Boggart? But then I realised it's really to put over the fact that the Boggart looks exactly like Snape in a couple of seconds. So it's just like a... Yeah. I was thinking there may be a reason for it, but I feel like that's really the reason for it. I've got to say, the staff room sounds rubbish. I have previously wondered what the staff room would look like. I thought it'd be like really cool, like where everyone has their little area, which is all very, very different. Like maybe like Trelawney, who wouldn't use hers very much, would be full of like stacks of teacups and like poofs, as it keeps on saying in the book, and so on. And Snape's would just be like all bottles and everything. I feel like I want it's gonna be like a really fascinating place, but it just seems like it's like a large long room with loads of different sized chairs and a cupboard at the far end. Does not sound like there are many parties going on in the staff room, is what I'm saying. But yeah, I had imagined what the staff room would be like before. Maybe we'll see in Hogwarts Legacy. legacy of Hogwarts. Oh, just got a message from Raider Max. Hello, Max. Anyway, sorry. No. It's getting to this point in the book review where my brain is starting to melt a little bit. Sorry, guys. So yeah, Snape's there. Brings up how Neville is not very good at doing difficult things unless Hermione's there to help, just like straight in front of everyone, including the other teacher as well. So wizards from magical families look worried when Boggart is first mentioned. They clearly all know what this blooming thing is, and the fact that they could be quite, well, very scary. That's kind of their remit, isn't it? The one that's inside the cupboard had only recently gone in there, and Lupin had actually asked if he could actually use it in a lesson, which is very cool. A very practical way of learning Defense Against the Dark Arts. Harry does remark, think about the fact that the only proper physical lesson that they've had in Defense Against the Dark Arts was when Lockhart let the pixies out into the classroom, and that wasn't even what was meant to happen. Because he was meant to deal with them, not the students. Which was a nice little callback there. Lupin says that he once saw a Boggart get so confused because one person was scared of giant slugs and another person was scared of something else, and it ended up just being turning into half a slug. And Lupin says it's not remotely scary. I quite frankly think that sounds terrifying. Quite frankly, I think it sounds like nightmare fuel. Lupin is explaining that as soon as the Boggart realises that it's not scaring Neville, it will then switch to someone else. And so we actually don't have a cue this time. It's kind of like, it's just like Lupin is like calling different names forward to deal with it differently. And it's kind of like flying around as well from what I gather. So no cue as such. And so Harry like overhears Ron saying take its legs off, which is obviously very different from what we get in the movie. It definitely seems like the humour is less of a thing. It's more to make it less of a threat, because when that Ron does take its legs off, loads of students are even more freaked out by that. And so it's more to incapacitate rather than humiliate, whereas in the book each of the things, as it's the spell ridiculous, is like making a ridiculous thing of each thing. It's like the spider with the roller skates and everything, and so it's a little different there. Parvati, not thinking of a clown in this, thinks of a bloody mummy, blooded mummy, which sounds horrible, and her way of defeating it for it to unravel in front of her. Seamus steps up and a banshee appears. He basically removes the banshee's voice. Someone like turns it into a rat. Someone turns it into a rattlesnake. Someone turns it into a single bloody eyeball. Jeez, it's messed up. Dean turns it into a hand that walks around the floor, and I'm wondering, guys, if Dean had, because he's obviously grown up in what he believes to be a Muggle. Well, no, he grew up in a Muggle existence, definitely. If he had seen an episode of The Addams Family, and that is a reference, because the fact that he would have grown up with Muggle TV would absolutely make you think. Because in the 90s, guys, you'd have a lot more reruns. Obviously, The Addams Family was made like long before the 90s, but in the 90s in the UK, you'd get Addams Family, old black and white Addams Family episodes on all the time. It's just possible that Dean had seen an episode of Addams Family, and Thing had, I think it's Thing, the hand, isn't it? Really freaked him out, and that's why it appeared as that. That's my little theory around Dean there. I feel like there's something there. He gets a mousetrap to land onto it. When it's Ron's turn and turns into the spider, apparently several other students start screaming as well, and Ron makes its legs disappear, which, like I say, freaks people out even more. It's just horrible. No roller skates in the book. And it lands in front of Harry when it has no legs. And as I remember, Lupin goes, wait, or something like that. And that distracts the Boggart to Lupin. So obviously we don't have any Dementor moment here. Yeah, it's very interesting because Harry in the movie is frozen with fear, isn't it? That's why Lupin has to step in. Yeah, I presume that's what's going on in the movie. Whereas here, Lupin doesn't allow the Boggart to turn its focus on Harry, and we get some more. We get something to back up that theory in just a moment. And so the Boggart then turns into a white orb, which obviously we know what that will potentially mean. It's turned into a. I think that Lupin turns it into a cockroach. It doesn't turn into a balloon, like in the movie, which is great. Where it's like again in the book, it seems to be less making the Boggart funny and just have a way of incapacitating the Boggart, you know. And so it's then a cockroach, and then it goes back into Snape, and Neville has the grand moment of actually defeating the Boggart completely. So yeah, I think he then makes it like dress up as Snape again, and apparently I believe the Boggart like basically explodes. Now I don't know if that means it's trying to teleport somewhere else, or Neville has straight up just killed it, maybe, which makes you think about morality there as well. But yes, the Boggart basically disappears essentially, and so Neville is actually like I think it like goes ha or something like that when he does it, and like the class are an absolute uproar. The class is absolutely delighted with it. Like I think Ron actually says it was like an amazing lesson. It's the first time that Neville seems genuinely proud, because I feel like at the end of Philosopher's Stone he's just a bit confused about what's going on when he gets to the points. We're here, we actually get like proper, like we have the Neville at the end of Deathly Hallows in Prison of Azkaban for this little moment here. So that was a really nice moment for Neville. So Lupin gives basically everyone loads of points. Obviously being a Gryffindor himself, and gives Hermione and Harry extra points. And when Harry questions why that's the case, he says it's because he answered the questions. And you'll notice that it's also Hermione and Harry who didn't actually get to confront their fears in the Boggart. So I presume that was on purpose specifically for Harry. I can't think of a reason why it'd be the case for Hermione, but I feel like Lupin purposely didn't allow the Boggart to focus on Harry. And so that's why when Hermione wanted to answer the question, asked Harry instead. So there was an excuse for the Boggart to not confront him. It's nice. Very nice. I really appreciate that. So we have no Dementor moment. Harry thinks Lupin doesn't think he was up to it. So yeah, I feel like Harry's again like a little bit dejected and embarrassed, thinking that maybe Lupin like let him off of it because maybe he thought that Harry would faint again or something like that. And you have all the different students like celebrating and everything. Did you see when I did this? Did you see when I did this? And then it has like a name without saying the name on it, saying, and my mummy. And I got so blooming confused, guys, because I'm English. And I forgot that Pravati made a blooded mummy. You know, Egyptian style mummy appear. And so when they said, my mummy, I was like, who the hell said that? Who made the Boggart turn into their mum? See, yeah, I'm a moron. And Ron beautifully says to Hermione that her fear would have been a piece of homework that's only scored 9 out of 10. Again, a great line. I really like that. But great chapter, guys. We'll discuss it in length in the book club. Yeah, let's get over to it. Okay, so deep breath. This is it, guys. The Harry Potter book club. This is what you can be a part of if you join the Patreon, guys. Like I say, you can back it for as little as you want and get access to everything that's on the Patreon. There's no tier system, and it is basically an area where you can leave your comments, and they get read out at the tail end of these book review episodes. I gotta say, guys, I would appreciate it if you did kind of try to follow the light rules I got here. I always say never fall them to the hilt. If you've got something that you want to say and you can't quite get it in 5 sentences, that's fine. You can do a bit more, but there are definitely some chunky comments on here. In fact, I know I saw one actually get posted, like, say, I thought we were meant to keep these comments short, because, like I say, this discussion did get quite heated from what I gather, but like I say, I haven't actually read them, so there are some light rules. The reason why I say try to keep them slightly short is so I can fit more in, but also reading, it's not easy for me, guys. I am dyslexic, but if you want to, if you can't say what you want, then make the comment longer. But either way, it does say that there's 146 comments here, but from what I gather, a chunk of those are in replies. In fact, even the first one has 3 replies, and so that's 1 comment out of what this would call 4 comments. And so we're going to get through it now. Very interesting to see what other people's opinions are of these chapters, particularly the 3rd chapter, which is what I believe is the one which had the most discussion going on in it. But we're starting off with Jacob, though, and so Jacob. So an interesting thing about all the predictions we hear Professor Trelawney make, they all come true to some degree. Just maybe not how we first think. I'm not sure if I should read this. Okay, I'm going to skip that, I'm afraid, Jacob, just because you have to remember I have not read these books before, and so it is... I want to be able to give my fresh thoughts in these videos. But thank you so much for your comment, though, Jacob, and I look forward to seeing you next time as well. Matthew, one of my favorite side characters of the book is introduced here, Sir Cadogan. When I was young, I always imagined him. He looked and sounded like John Cleese from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, but acting like the knights that keep fighting when they lose their limbs again. Holy Grail. He is the Black Knight as well. John Cleese. Is his voice anyway? If you know that film, oh, absolutely I do. Just still laugh so much when I reread it all these years later. I would love to hear what you think about him. I think he's wonderful, and like I say, I even in my movie reaction, I was like, oh, look at the knight in the background, like that, because he's like all getting dramatic about like the fat lady singing and everything like that. But the fact that he's literally doing that, like walking along like that, is a direct reference to Monty Python and Holy Grail. I loved this scene in the book. It was awesome, and I would love it to be in the movie as well. But if you type for time, having him in the background in that scene was just perfect. I thought it was wonderful. Thank you so much for your comment, Matthew. Max, here we go. Had to delete the first comment because it was actually from Order, not Azkaban. Thank you very much, Sarah, for catching that. All I have to say is the Boggart in the wardrobe is definitive proof that while not evil, Snape is a mega... Oh, that chapter! Yes, well, absolutely, yeah. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm defending him, guys, Snape, because I'm really not, but I do feel like maybe I think it's less bad as other people if they think that he's literally just going to let Trevor die. I don't personally feel like that was ever the case. Nix. I love how the characters in the books are much more fleshed out, so to speak, such as Professor Trelawney. In the movie, so many of J.K. Rowling's interesting characters were visually glossed over or did not even feature given the time constraints. Well, quite. 10 points to Hufflepuff for keeping my 2 pennyworth short. Oh my goodness, my brain's gone blank. I'm sorry, guys. 10 points to Hufflepuff for keeping my 2 pennyworth short and not write an essay. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. I've seen what's coming in this section. Oh, absolutely, Nix. Yes, I greatly appreciate it, Nix. Jake. Children are horrible. Harry's episode on the train is described by Ron as some kind of fit. Yes, absolutely, yes. Can you imagine how people would react if Malfoy made fun of an epileptic seizure? There's also a condition called non epileptic attack disorder. I'm new to that. No, I know those words. Thank you very much for Jake. That can insult stress-induced seizures. So honestly, he has no excuse to be mocking him without some form of retribution from the teachers or other students. Well, that's your bloomin' Slytherins for you, isn't it? Making fun of an epileptic seizure. Yeah. I mean, epileptic seizures are not nothing to be made fun of at all, guys. Seriously, I remember once I was working in a shop in Oxford, in fact, and I went off for lunch and came back and was told that one of the other people who did have epileptic seizures every now and then had to go home because he'd had a massive one on the shop floor. And where the tills were, there were still traces of blood. He was fine. He's absolutely fine now, in fact. But yeah, I was sad. Lovely guy. One of the nicest guys I've met as well. Yeah, there's certainly enough to be made fun of. I still feel scandalous that Buttbeak... I still feel scandalous that Buttbeak gets the blame from Malfoy's idiocy in not listening to the teacher. Buttbeak's definitely not to blame. I do feel like you gotta say Hagrid, but just went a little bit far for the first lesson as well. But you're right. Draco is definitely the one to take the lion's cut of the share. What? Lion's share of the blame. If the chemistry student burns themselves on a Bunsen burner because they were dumb enough to stick their hand over it, would the equipment get the blame? Yeah, but would you give a Bunsen burner to their first science lesson? No. Oh man, this is a good discussion. No. Also, amazed he was allowed to milk the injury for so long without a teacher telling him to grow up and take the sling off. Well, Pomfrey definitely would have done, but Pomfrey can definitely fight her own corner. She, I'm sure, would have been saying, hey, Draco, what's going on here? I know what I'm doing. I know you're fine. Snape, not so much, but that's Snape. That's very true. Good point. Lastly, I want to know how Lupin knows everyone's name by heart in the very first Dark Arts class. Very true, because he's calling forward by name. Maybe the upside of being a werewolf is having a great memory? I think it is a teacher's job to learn students' names pretty damn fast. To do it in the first lesson is certainly impressive. How big are the classes? What, like 25 students, 30 students or something? It's not impossible. Like maybe he's given the register with images upon finding out that he's going to be the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. It's still very impressive. But yeah, he is calling them out by name. Or maybe it is just a side effect of being a werewolf baby. Thank you very much for your comments. Florin, I'm new to the Patreon, joined because of the book club. Thank you so much, Florin. Very, very, very kind of you. I really like how in the book you do not immediately know that Professor Lupin is afraid of the moon. Absolutely. A young person would not necessarily make the connection between Lupin's name meaning wolf. Oh, or this guy. So him being a werewolf is a nice twist. Absolutely, Florin. I didn't know that about Lupin. I honestly didn't. Whenever I think of Lupin, it's a type of flower, right? Right? But I also think of Lupin Third, wow, which is an anime, which I've only seen one of, and it was good. It was very good, as I remember. But Lupin the Third is like an anime series that's been going since I think like the early 70s, late 60s. It's a very long running anime. And so that's the other thing which I think of when I think of the name Lupin. I didn't know it meant the name meant werewolf. Wolf, sorry. That's fascinating. Very nice comment. Thank you so much for joining for the book club, Florin. That is a great start. First comment. Embran. Okay, here we go, guys. Okay, so it's quite long. Embran. There we go. Thank you. Thanks to you, I likely from now on imagine Stan from the night bus as a young freckled version of Bob Grant as Jack Harper. Nice work with these names, Amberin. Yes, of course. Bob Grant played Jack Harper in On the Buses. Awesome. A pity Jack has the big teeth instead of big ears like Stan's got, but both would be silly. Okay, I should point out. Jack Harper is the conductor on the buses, and it is a significant joke that the fact that he has like these very big teeth. But he's a very confident guy, though. So yeah, I love the on the buses conversation at the start of this. Fantastic. Flickering right before shattering of the glass, me and my family see as Harry's rage that through magic emotions connected to it and all gives vibrations of sorts and influences the light. Oh my goodness. Like his aura. The light outside where... Oh, the flickering lights! That's right! Yes, now that did confuse me. We discussed that last time, the fact that who is making the lights flicker. Because you get it with Harry in his kitchen, or I guess in the movie, in the book you do as well, I think. And then when Sirius is approaching him, you get it then as well. So who was actually making the flickering of the light? The lights outside were likely just malfunctioning ones to give the feeling of dread and tension. That's actually very true as well. You know, the deserted bus stop at night, Harry on his own, unprotected, good old horror feels. That's actually very true as well. I didn't take that into consideration. I think they handled the Dementor brought to scene and the terror he invokes quite well. I think he looks perfect. I think that the Dementor looked perfectly. Only Lupin facing it, I give fault. He wakes up and all of a sudden, in the hallway, with the light comes out of his wand right after Harry's soul sucking. It's all just visual fading, blurred effect. It is. He doesn't even say a word, does he? In the movie, he just like goes, and then it's whoa like that. Whereas yeah, he's actually like saying we haven't got Sirius Black under our robes, which is amazing. Cloaks, I should say. That was amazing. Would be better if Lupin was awake before the Dementor came, like in the book. Neville and Ginny present would have been a nice touch, but even as it is Lupin taking charge, commanding everyone present to be quiet and approach the door gives quite plenty cinematic thrill and horror after a nice train ride. The only transition would have been better. Only the transition would have been better. Yeah, and I definitely like the fact that Neville and Ginny are there as well. I think that definitely adds a nice touch, and I think that gives Harry more reason for kind of feeling embarrassed. But yeah, Lupin straight up is talking to this thing. I didn't know you could talk to Dementors, quite frankly. So yeah, I agree with that. When young, it bugged me, but now I find it a smart choice to only show one hippogriff. It puts full attention on Buckbeak, Draco's stupidity, but also that it won't remain without consequences. I agree, I completely agree. And it also, Buckbeak being alone definitely adds more to what is going to happen in the story. I presume is going to be happening in the story going forward as well. The fact that he's the only one. I agree. Also, budget would have been hindered by having all the different hippogriffs, but you're right, from a narrative standpoint, it is definitely a better choice that in the movie there is one. And it definitely puts over his beauty, as Hagrid would say, when he comes out. I completely agree. I also like Buckbeak nudge with his beak behind Harry. Even though proud, the creature instinctively seeks comfort knowing the looming drama unfolding. Yes, now this is afterwards. So when Draco's like saying you and your stupid chicken or whatever it is to Hagrid as Hagrid's carrying him away, Buckbeak does like nudge Harry on just behind the shoulder, I think. So yeah, absolutely, it is like that little bit of comfort after what's just happened. A pity we won't see any any teachings of the care of magical creatures after this in the movies are nasty beings, but beside Boggart in advancing the dark arts classes. A missed opportunity because beasties guarantee magical wonder. Oh, absolutely! The creatures on these things are my favorite things. I mean, like I say, check out my Fantastic Beast reaction. The creatures. I just love that aspect of this world. Surely no budget problem. Would it have withheld the story that much? Yeah. When I think about the budget thing with the Hippogriff, I think you're right. Actually, I don't think the budget would have been that much of a big issue. But it's definitely better there is only one Hippogriff. I would say it was also probably time as well, quite frankly, Embrun. Because they pack a lot into these movies. Some scenes are so short, like Trelawney's lesson, like incredibly brief compared to how it is in the book. Barely anything in the books regarding the grandparents. Oh yes, this is what I was asking last time. But only on Pottermore, Rowling wrote about them. Both Felmont and Euphemia have died of dragonpox. Oh my goodness. They saw their son get married, but died before baby Harry. The only thing we got book-wise is Philosopher's Stone, Harry seeing them in the mirror, of course! I completely forgot about them. Yeah, the Mirror of the Desire, of course. They would have been there. Great comment. Okay, I'm going to say this. Embrun, sorry about saying about the length of your comment. That was absolutely fine. And there are many other people who have comments that length. Like I say, when there's loads of them, it does take me a while to get through them. But that was awesome, though. From some fantastic points. Loved the On the Buses discussion at the start there. If anyone else knows about Bob Grant or that, guys, let us know, because I think it might just be me and Embrun. Slim. Pretty interesting that the Dementor brings back the memory so vividly, don't you think? Harry was only a year old at the time, hint, hint. Well, absolutely. And we get our first book-only character in Sir Cadogan. I'm terrible at reading that. Seems like Rick Mail would have been perfect for this role, don't you think? Well, him and Peeves, yeah, absolutely. Apparently he filmed for Peeves. He filmed scenes as Peeves. Oh, you know what? I would have Adrian Edmondson. Just so you have Rick Mail and Adrian Edmondson. Oh my giddy aunt. And I'm not talking about Neville's aunt. That is grandmother. Ignore me. Not talking about Petunia. There we go. Oh, I would love that. Rick Mail and Adrian Edmondson, I should say, guys, are in my favourite sitcom of all time. It's called Bottom. It is incredibly crude. The characters we're not meant to be on the sides of, and so all the stupid things they say, we're meant to think they're idiots. It's also very violent, I've got to say that as well, but they are hilarious in it. It's called Bottom. And it's starring Rick Mail and Adrian Edmondson. Rick Mail was meant to be playing Peeves, but his scenes got cut. But yeah, he would have been amazing as the Knight as well, absolutely. The tension around Black really is pervasive throughout these chapters. Everyone is incredibly concerned about Harry and where Black is. Yeah, blooming Lavender and Pravati blooming like having his back as well in this chapter of all people. Snape's behaviour is quite appalling, especially given his position of responsibility as a teacher. I think the Boggart class is Lupin's way of reminding Snape that he's not the only person who can play dirty. Oh, you think that he chose Neville on purpose? He did, didn't he? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I like that, Slim. I didn't think about that for a second. That's wonderful. Great comment as always. Josh. Maybe it's just me, but Ron in the movies starts to become Malfoy-ish in Prisoner of Azkaban and beyond. Yes, Ron can be stubborn and rude, but the books show that he is incredibly loyal and puts his neck on the line for his friends. You will quickly understand reading this book why I have such a problem with his characterization in the movies. Maybe many of the most important characters have been written so that the others look lesser and inferior. Absolutely. I'll put a pause on that 1 second. When I was saying earlier on about the line about Ron saying to Hermione, "You're only saying this because you would have been rubbish, because you're going to be rubbish at the class or something," that line would never be in Prisoner of Azkaban, the movie, as the movie is written. And even when they're like questioning Hermione, yeah. Hermione doesn't... You know what, guys? Oh, man. This has nothing to do with the actress. Movie Hermione doesn't seem like that nice a friend in these few chapters. The book Hermione, you have the arguing back and forth and everything. And that's just naturally what friends do. Whereas movie Hermione, because Ron is this person who basically gets humiliated in every scene at this point, she just seems to be being a bit nasty to him, and why they would be friends is less apparent. You know what I mean? Having a back and forth with a friend is one thing. For one friend to always be putting the other one down, I mean, she's not always putting him down. I don't know, guys. This is a very interesting point, though. It really does seem like a lot is being taken away from Ron and given to Hermione, but that's literally been the case in previous, like in Philosopher's Stone. There were many occasions that it was that, wasn't there? And I don't want to keep on ranting at movie Hermione because I think she was great. I would say the only ones that truly feel authentic to how JKR wrote them is Hagrid and Molly, and maybe Luna later in order. Well, we'll see about that, which is a shame because I feel like a talented cast was pretty much wasted by making so many characters shallow and one-dimensional. Molly and Hagrid. Can I think of anyone else? So far, I think Lupin's great. Dumbledore. It's very interesting that you say Hagrid and Molly. I'll be looking out for other characters, Josh, but that is a great comment. I completely agree, quite frankly. Michelle. I love the Boggarts in the wardrobe chapter, as we start to see Sirius and his... I gotta say, guys, this one has 29 replies. So Sirius and his dynamic with Remus, especially in this book, which is quite interesting. Obviously, at this point, the readers don't know about his rocky relationship with the Marauders, so sadly, many new readers, and sad to say, even old readers, still see Sirius's actions as rather petty. But when you know his backstory, you understand completely why Sirius acts in the way he does in this book. It was going to add a few... I was going to add a few more points, but I'll wait much later towards the end of the book for more dynamic comes to light. Oh, thank you very much, Michelle. Greatly appreciate. And then you'll understand why Sirius has been so uptight and angry when Remus is around. I can imagine we're going to be learning about that sooner than later, actually. That aside, a lot of people sadly blow the Snape and Neville scene out of proportion. Neville is a shy, bumbling, walking potion disaster. And not the only one. And Professor Snape simply has no patience for him, since he is commonly a hazard to himself and others. I do think that Neville would... I said this earlier on. I do think that if it wasn't for Snape being the teacher in potions, Neville, knowing about what I know Neville is good at in the future, should be pretty good at potions. But then again, he messes up the broom and everything. He's a walking disaster in a lot of classes, quite frankly. So you're saying... Okay, let's read the rest of this comment. Quite interesting when Neville actually chooses his Boggart when Lupin asks him, I don't want it to turn into her either. So he chose Snape. Oh, hang on. Quite interesting when Neville actually chooses his Boggart when Lupin asks him, I don't want it to turn into her either. Is that something that we've covered? Is that in this chapter? If not, I completely missed that. Obviously, I know what that's suggesting, but if that's... Okay, if that was in these chapters, I completely missed that. So he chose Snape over his grandmother or a lesser fear. Oh, I see. Okay, I got completely wrong instinct. I thought you were talking about a Bellatrix for a second there. And fear of of a teacher at 13 years old is very common. I know I had a few. Yeah, I definitely had a few as well. The book Snape never actually physically hurts a student. So really, does in the movies, doesn't he? That said a lot about Neville's... So really, that says a lot about Neville's home life. Snape just amplifies his fear, but is never actually the cause of his fear after the get-go. Neville is afraid ever since arriving at Hogwarts. Snape saying that he's going to feed the potion to Trevor, whether Neville gets it right or wrong, is definitely an intimidation. I'll say that. It's either trying to just scare Neville, or it's trying to scare Neville into doing the thing right. Which I know some teachers are stupid enough to think that's a good way of teaching people. Teaching people through fear is not a good thing. So this is very interesting. Let's finish off the comment before I say any more. I've had teachers exactly like, and even worse than Snape. He's disciplinarian when students don't follow the rules, and he only gives rather mediocre detentions and punishments. He's really not that bad. There is always a method to the reason to his madness, but also keep in mind the books from Harry's perspective. That's also very true. What's your opinion on the point giving, Michelle? It's very possible that this has been gone into in the replies. What's your... I mean, the fact is, a lot of teachers clearly give their house more points than other houses. Snape, from what I gather, is the only one who will willfully take away from specific houses. And do so in a way that is going to embarrass and hurt emotionally, not physically, because I know you're talking a lot about physical discipline here rather than mental. What do you think about the fact that maybe you don't think he is being unfair? The fact that he does seem to be taking away points from Gryffindor a lot. Do you think that because it's written from Harry's perspective that Snape actually isn't giving him and Ron a hard time? Do you think that that Snape genuinely thinks that Draco does need Ron and Harry's help? I can kind of understand the chopping up thing, the fact that Ron does a bad job of chopping up Draco's ingredients. Draco's like, oh, look what he's done to my ingredients. And Snape saying, okay, switch them. And Ron's perfectly cut ones and now going to Draco. I understand that. But are you saying that Snape genuinely thinks that Draco is still unable to do it himself? Or maybe you're saying that Draco is able to do it himself, and it's Harry's projecting the idea that he's not able to yet. I think that Snape is not a good professor. I think that his methods are cruel, at least from the standpoint of Harry, because that's all we can go on. We can say, you know, Draco thinks that he's really horrible to Slytherin. That could be Draco's standpoint, thinking, oh, why is Snape always so nasty to Slytherins? But all we have to go on is Harry's perspective. And so if Harry isn't legitimately lying to the audience, I think to say that Snape is a good professor and one that should be treating students the way he does, I think that's a stretch. That being said, I do have a feeling that people are going to be a lot more up in arms about the Trevor thing more than I was. Fascinating question, Michelle. I've been really looking forward to reading your thoughts on this, and it's really interesting to see such a perspective. Like I say, guys, if you want to go and see the 29 replies to this, then you can go and check that out there. But yes, lots of food for thought there. Fantastic comment, Rochelle. This isn't a spoiler. It's a major plot point, but this book was set in 1993. The night before Hogwarts began, September the 1st, was a full moon. Oh my goodness, okay. and this is why Lupin was so tired. Oh my goodness. Is that a coincidence, or is that incredibly good research by the author? Neville is one of the bravest characters in literature. He lives in fear of his grandmother at home, and at school he lives in fear of Snape, someone who he has to see every day. Oh my goodness, Rochelle. I agree. That's fascinating about there actually being a full moon in 1993. Man, is that a coincidence? I bet she says it isn't a coincidence now, the author. But that's amazing if that was researched. Okay, Howard, here we go. Howard, big Snape fan. Oh boy, the highly controversial Toad incident. Let's clear up some misconceptions here. First, Professor Snape did not try to poison Trevor. Had that been the case, Trevor would have been dead. That's not technically true, because poisoned, like if a dog eats a tiny bit of chocolate and it gives him an upset stomach, the dog has been poisoned. Obviously, if it eats a lot of chocolate, then it will die. So don't give your dog human chocolate, guys. It's not appropriate for dogs. You can get dog chocolate, don't give them real chocolate. It really is not good for them. I mean, you have poisons that last hours, days, And then we had the poison that Ron ends up blooming taking in one of the later movies, which is almost instantaneous. So, anyway, let's go with your comment. Snape is a master potioneer who keeps a large collection of potions in his office. It would have been really easy for him to poison Trevor if he wanted to. Oh, so you're saying that some people say that he was actually trying to kill Trevor? I haven't seen that yet. I haven't seen anyone who has the theory that Snape went into that lesson with the intent of killing Trevor. Secondly, people who dislike Snape often claim that he picks on Neville for no reason. That couldn't be further from the truth. Neville is an atrociously bad student who constantly endangers the whole class with his sloppy work. He's extremely reckless and seems totally unconcerned about the possibility of hurting his classmates. You think he's unconcerned? So you're saying that Neville is a sociopath? Is that the right term? So if Neville was to accidentally hurt another student, you think that he would feel no remorse? Is that your interpretation of Neville, Hoa? And I'm asking you that, because I'd be fascinated to know your answer to that. Extremely reckless and seems totally unconcerned about the possibility of hurting his classmates. Can you give me some examples of that, Hoa? As long as it's been in the book up to where we are, obviously nothing that's in the future. So I can't think of anything in the potions lessons where he seemed actually unconcerned about if he's doing the work right or not. And also, being an atrociously bad student, I mean, I was dyslexic, or I am dyslexic throughout my entire school tenure. And often I'd be made to read out in class, which was horrendously humiliating to me. I wouldn't say that I was a bad student. I'd say that I wasn't very good at the thing which I was being asked to do. But you mean bad student as in bad at what he is studying, rather than he's a bad student. I think that's what you mean. He was endangering the whole class with his sloppy work. He's extremely reckless and seems unconcerned. That bit I don't get, Hoa. I've never given the idea that Neville, if he were to accidentally hurt someone, that he would have no remorse about it. Yeah, let me know. And also, like I say, if you could give me examples specifically of Neville being like that in any class, I'd appreciate that. Of course, and also, do you feel like he's not scared of Snape then? Of course, Snape is going to reprimand him for that. That's not bullying. That's simply being a teacher responsible for the safety of his students. Do you know what would have been really evil? Letting Neville hurt, injure, or disfigure his classmates. I don't remember at any point him being a chance of him doing that. Was that potentially going to happen with the potion that Neville was working on? Is that why? Are you saying that Snape intervened with this potion specifically because he thought it was going to explode and disfigure his classmates? I would say that if there is a student who's not very good at a subject, piling on as much pressure as you can onto them is not a good way for them to be safe. For their work to be safe or accurate. Yeah, that's my take on that one. So let's take a look at the incident from Snape's point of view. He's already extremely stressed out because of the black situation. He shouldn't be bringing that to class. That's just, you shouldn't be taking that sort of thing to work. He's teaching his first lesson of the year, and Neville is already back to his usual antics. That shouldn't really affect him either. He's a teacher, he's a professional. He shouldn't be stressed because of that. He doesn't pay attention, doesn't follow Snape's instructions, doesn't care if he hurts anybody. I disagree with that line. I don't think that... you guys are going to have to point out the times where Neville gives off the impression that he doesn't care if he hurts anyone. Because we know he cares about his house, he cares about his friends, as Dumbledore said. At what point have we been given the impression that Neville doesn't care if he hurts people? Specifically that. And now he even brought his pet to the potions class. What the hell, Neville? Are you not allowed to do that? Obviously, there are classes where you're meant to bring them to. You don't see Harry bringing Hedwig or Hermione bringing Crookshanks. A pet in the potions class is a safety hazard. Why didn't Snape bring that up? It's just another example of how irresponsible it is. Why didn't Snape say you're not allowed that toad in here because it's a safety hazard? Unless Snape doesn't care about the hazard hurting the students as well. I need to finish your comment, Hoa. And I'm meaning all these counters with complete respect. I've got to say a couple of those things where you're saying that Snape is stressed about the black situation, it being the first class of the year, and Neville having a history of not being very good at potions things. He is a working professional. None of those things should be affecting his class. That's my opinion on that, though. So Snape decides to show Neville that his actions have consequences. That I do agree with. And it works. With proper motivation, Neville brews the potion correctly. That's not true. Because we hear that Hermione has been feeding him the instructions. That's right. Neville cares more about his toad than about hurting his classmates. I don't know where that's coming from. It also proves that Neville is capable of doing something properly. He just doesn't try hard enough. So when Snape I really hope I'm not coming off as being aggressive I'm loving this. And the thing is, if we're in the same room having a conversation, you could be, giving me the same treatment back to what I'm saying as well. Obviously, when it's just me talking to text, it could seem a little bit unfair. So I'm really enjoying this comment, Hoa. I genuinely am. It's awesome. When Snape said to Lupin, Neville can't do anything unless anything difficult unless Hermione's in his ear. Do you think he was lying then? Did you think that he did that? Do you think that Snape? So Snape decides to show Neville his actions have consequences. That sentence I have complete agreement with. That's the ultimatum with Trevor. That is the purpose of the ultimatum with Trevor. Whether that means that Trevor is going to live or die is another subject, because I don't think that Snape had any intention on killing Trevor. On having Trevor die. He's a potions master guy. He could cure all anything that Neville would have put into him. And it worked. With the proper motivation, Neville brewed the potion correctly. Hoa, would you agree that that is not true? Or do you believe that Neville actually did, and that Hermione didn't actually help him out? And so, if that is the case, then why does Snape dock Hermione the points? Or is it that Snape's technique of not threatening, I'm trying to use your terms. Snape's motivation that he gave to Neville to get the potion correct worked so well that it shocked Snape into thinking, well, Hermione must have helped him then. Is that what you're saying? In which case, Harry's point of view, seeing Hermione appear to be whispering over stuff, maybe Neville was just ignoring that? It's a stretch. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I do feel like it's a stretch. That's right, It also proves that Neville is capable of doing things properly. He just doesn't try hard enough. I don't blame Snape for being frustrated with him. Soon we'll see that McGonagall is frustrated with Neville too, and her punish. You shouldn't be saying stuff that's going to be happening in the future. Brilliant comment, Hoa. Like I say, you shouldn't be saying soon we'll be seeing something on this, because I haven't experienced that. I thought this comment was brilliant. I do think there is a inconsistency in it. The idea that Neville doesn't care about hurting his fellow students, I don't see where that has come from. Again, maybe it will be in the future, but I don't know. I'm just going on what I've read so far. Snape doing what he does to give Neville the ultimatum to get the potion right, and that working means that Hermione getting the 5 points was completely pointless, and that Snape was duped by his own plan to make Neville get the potion right? Snape deciding to show Neville that his actions have consequences, I think is absolutely one of the reasons why Snape is doing what he's doing. I think that's absolutely true. But I do feel like, Hoa, and I mean this with all the love in the world, because I always appreciate your comments, I genuinely do. Would you say that in any way, in the same way that I'm incredibly biased to Hufflepuff, although that's obviously in a bit of a tongue-in-cheek way as well, but in the same way that I am... No, it's not tongue-in-cheek. Last book, I absolutely loved Ernie. Ernie? Hufflepuff. I think his name was Ernie, yes. I thought he was brilliant. I'll admit that is down to my own bias. There is definitely a bias there which makes me love his character more than other people probably would do. However, would you concede that this take on this situation is down to a bias because you appreciate the character Snape so much? And if you don't think it is down to any sort of bias, that's fine. I'm just interested to hear your take on that. Because I definitely have a bias when it comes to certain characters, particularly with Harry Potter. I'd just like to hear if you feel like maybe there is a slight bias to the way that the way that you interpret scenes in Harry Potter. Great comment, Hoa. Really appreciate that. Like I say, doing this back and forth when it's your text and me being able to think on my feet is unfair on you, and so I hope I didn't come off as being dismissive of any of your points. I really tried to think each of them through, and you definitely made some good points. Dara, there it is. One of the scenes that made me tell you that Snape is worse in the books. Oh my goodness, the takes. Since people have already commented on it not being that bad, my 5 cents. Yes, Snape is under a bit of stress and maybe even pissed off by the Lupin and Black situation. No. If he's a professional, and I think he is, that should not come... What do they say? You don't bring it to work. That being said, it's a bit difficult to not bring it to work when you're at Hogwarts, but if he's a professional, that should not be influencing the way that he treats students. Still, he's a teacher and should not play out of his personal troubles on students' backs. Yes, potions is a delicate and dangerous subject, which started in the first year. Yeah, it absolutely is. But does it help by scare people so they get even more unsure of themselves? Would encouragement not be the better way? And yes, I can already see the comments. And said before, yada yada, double agent. Well, that's the thing. We can't take that into consideration, which we did not know by the time the book came out. Still, it is not a great character trait to be really bad with your students, no matter how dangerous your subject is. Yeah, I agree. Scaring people is I had some scary teachers, guys. In fact, apparently I barely missed out on a very scary art teacher who would like throw clay pots at people when they got things wrong. I can guarantee you that none of at my school, I'm talking about, I can guarantee you none of those students went out on to be great artists. I doubt it, anyway. I happen to have some very strange artists. Should we go into this now? I mean, this book club's going to be long enough as it is anyway, but yeah, basically there's an art teacher who left basically the year just before I started to go into secondary school. And art is a big thing for me, guys. I actually love drawing. I'm not very good, but I do love it. And yeah, apparently he would like throw like clay statues at students if they got anything wrong and everything, and start screaming and everything. Apparently the headmaster, this is another aspect of it, the headmaster would every now and then could be seen like walking outside and just peering in just to make sure that everything was going all right. This is before CCTV stuff and like that in schools and everything. Scaring students, in real life here, guys, is not a very good way of getting them to listen. And I had scary teachers who would like scream at me because I wasn't able to finish finish work as fast as other people that weren't dyslexic and everything. That didn't make me any faster, you know? It's like Trelawney like screaming at Hermione, do it right, why haven't we got an aura, you know? Well, it's because Hermione doesn't have the aura to do it. Oh man. Like I say, my art teachers were strange. There was one, oh my goodness, am I really going to go into this? I'll go into two of them. Each of my art teachers were very strange, guys. The first one that I had at secondary school turned up completely and utterly wasted in a lesson. Again, the headmaster, who obviously had a lot of time spent walking around the art section at this school, came into the class when she was like this. And he said to her, oh, there's a phone call for you that you need to take straight away. Obviously, that was the last time we ever saw her on school grounds. The next one, oh my goodness. The next one was just not a very nice person anyway, but he, shall I even say this? Yeah, okay, I'll say it very quickly. He ran off with one of the students, okay. Right. One of the A-level students, I should specify, but yes. My school had some weird art teachers. Is what I'm saying, and so that's what I'm trying to compare the Snape situation to. Yeah, like I say, one of the sixth form. So like, you know, what's sixth form like 17, 18-year-olds or something like that. Yeah, he left his family for one of the students. Anyway, let's move on, guys. My goodness, I can't believe I just went into that in this video. Oh my goodness, I'm completely lost. I'm so sorry, Dara. I'm completely lost now. It was what you were saying about scaring students, and that really just made me think of the teacher that I heard terrifying stories of, about throwing pieces of work around the classroom. It's not a great character trait to be really bad to your students, no matter how dangerous your subject is. I always thought it's bad enough that he is mean to Neville in his own class, but sort of telling Lupin to watch out just in case. Just keep your mouth shut, please. Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't take that as a genuine keep an eye on Neville because he might screw up your class. I feel like that was I've got another chance to, you know, to twist the knife with Neville. That's how I took that. And Snape is my favourite character, and I see a lot of positive things. I just do not like some things he does, and I pretend we do not know he's a double agent. That is always very, very important. Great comment, Dara. Again, I mean, there's stuff I agree with. There's stuff which I agree with in Hawaz. This is the great thing, guys. The fact that we can have two back-to-back comments, which are such a different take on who are the favourite character of the commenters, on both commenters. It's awesome. It's amazing. That's what makes this book club special, quite frankly. Okay, so now you've listened to enough baggage about my school life, guys. Let's move on to Q's comment. The potion scene, oh good. Such a joking. The potion scene has been talked about enough above. I worried if I say more, it'll be a long, boring argument, and no one wants that. So feel free to skip talking about this paragraph if you're reluctant for your discussion. No, Q, we're reading all. I'll just say that as a teacher and a student, I believe that repeatedly threatening and publicly calling a student useless and stupid in so many words or not is possibly the worst way to encourage them to learn, and will only ever make things worse for them and everyone around them. Okay, 2 cents in, move on. Thank you so much. Don't feel like it. From what I gather, Q, in all these replies, and I got a couple of comments, because at one point I did say in one of the chains, hey guys, I'm not reading these comments, but please do keep it respectful. And I got a couple of messages from the people who were making the comments, but also other people saying, no, it's fine, Veggie, it's actually being really civil. And so apparently they didn't turn out into all-out wars. But Q, I really appreciate your take. So excited for you to meet Book Lupin. Me too. It's such a fascinating character, especially as books continue. Oh yes, absolutely. I think the movies could have done better with the Boggart scene to make Lupin's fear less obvious. Oh, and keep his reasoning for stopping Harry fighting it under wraps and book accurate. I gotta say, Q, I did not pick up on the balloon. Sorry, I did not pick up on the moon at all. I feel like it was so briefly done that when I was editing, in fact, this did actually happen. When I was editing, I was like, oh, it's the moon! I completely missed it upon first watching. But yeah, I feel the movie scene is definitely funnier. Like I say, like the Banshee losing her voice and everything, that's not as ridiculous as a spider with like roller skates. Different take, but I thought they were both good. And quite frankly, the bloodied mummy, I'm glad we didn't get to see that, because that'd be horrible. We just have Pravati's massive clown instead. The movie doesn't really allow for the build-up of the mysteries and reveals it reveals in this one too well. That said, the movie Boggart scene is a lot of fun. I completely agree. Love how the books make it clear how much being a teacher means for Hagrid, and yeah, absolutely, and shows that while he can be careless and underestimates the danger of some creatures poses to students, he does really know his stuff and clearly tells them how to be safe with the hippogriff. Oh man, am I giving Hagrid a hard time here, guys? Because I still think that's unforgivable. Starting off with a hippogriff. We know how many wondrous creatures there are in this universe, guys. We've seen a bunch of them. And Hagrid thinks that a hippogriff is the appropriate starter. What he could have done is say, hey, we'll be working up to these. Now here's a dude called Pickett, who obviously wouldn't be there, but you know what I'm talking about. Just to say, this is the wondrous sort of thing that we will eventually be teaching you in 4 years' time. But now let's start off with this mole. You know? Oh, man. I don't want to sound like I'm defending Draco, because I'm not. It's Draco's fault, but you can't say it's not Hagrid's fault at all, though. Come on! I don't know. Again, it's great to hear these different opinions on this. The monster books demonstrate his philosophy on creatures really well too. He's amazed and disappointed that none of the students look at the snapping, snarling creatures and thought that they thought to show it kindness. Well, he says that he finds them funny, which is why Hermione's saying I find them funny just makes no sense in the movie. And again, this is not a criticism of the actress. I think all the actors and actresses in Harry Potter were fantastic, but she's like straight face says I find it funny. It just makes sense that Hagrid says it, and then Hagrid is taken out of sorts, and that's why Harry steps up. But if you didn't have Harry stepping up, then you wouldn't have the two moments where Harry gets humiliated, though, or embarrassed at least, with him like turning around for the Dementor, and also him realizing that everyone else has stepped back while he stood where he is, and like Ron pushing him forward. Oh man, I think they're both well done. Thank you very much for your comment, Q. David. And Q, comment what you want. Don't feel like you can't add to the debate. Like I say, I believe that all the replies have been very respectful in here. And so, David. Harry, why would I go looking for someone who wants to kill me? Me. That never stopped you in the first two books. I probably will. Why... They said don't go looking for him. Oh, absolutely, David. No, that is absolutely what I think Arthur is thinking. That's what Hermione's thinking. It's what probably Fudge is thinking. It's what probably Dumbledore's thinking when he says about the invisibility cloak in the speech at the welcoming feast. That's definitely what they're thinking. So yeah, being judged on past discretions. Well, not even discretions, acts. Rebecca. While Snape's treatment of Neville is generally inexcusable, I do feel like a hell of a lot of people misread the Boggart scene. A Boggart is hindered by the fact that it must show a physically representation of a human's fear, which are often incredibly deep and complex. Sirius Snape is not literally Neville's worst fear, just one possible representation of his actual greatest fear, the fear of failure and its consequences. My goodness, Rebecca, that is well put. Snape is the personification of Neville's fear of failure and consequences. Wow, I like that a lot. There is another Hogwarts teacher who appears as a Boggart later. Skipping that bit. Just in case. I'm skipping that bit. Anyways, I can't wait to see your reaction to book Lupin. I adore Lupin and I love being able to see more of his character in the book. That being said, it breaks my heart to think that in another life Lupin would would probably have been there all the time as Harry grew up. Oh man. Instead, they meet after many years as strangers in a moment that Harry is forced to relive the memory of his mother's death. It's so sad. That is sad. Very well put, Rebecca. I like that comment a lot. Greatly appreciated. Daniel. It's only a small amount, pardon me. It's only a small moment. But I feel that Ron telling Ginny to go away on the train is defining moment that separates Ginny from the trio. I like that. I like your point, I should say. It does make her a minor character for some time, but paves the way for what she becomes in later books. Oh, awesome! Yeah, you got to think about it from her perspective. It's the fact that she feels like she's part of the group. Obviously, what happened last time, and then Ron's literally like, "Go away," and she does, and she likes this charming or something like that. And when the lights go off, what's her first reaction to do? To go back to Ron, and to where Harry and Hermione are. Yeah. I'm looking forward to more Ginny, guys. I really am. I was wondering what you think about Harry not being able to see the Fistrals pulling the carts. Are they Fistrals then? Oh my goodness, now I'm confused. The literal explanation would obviously be that Rowling didn't come up with them until later, but a proper argument is that Harry didn't process the death of his parents at that young age. But wasn't his parents' death his worst memory, according to the dementor scene? There's also a theory that it was actually Voldemort who saw the deaths, not Harry, and he only remembers Voldemort's. Oh, this is something which we'll probably go on to later on in the books. But if it took until the third year for their first practical Defense Against Dark Arts class, what was so bad about Umbridge's class compared to Quirrell and Lockhart's? Well, Lockhart did give them a practical one by accident. Very true. Very true about the Umbridge thing. I'm confused now, guys. I think I need to rewatch the movies and get to the point of the books. Because I was thinking, oh yeah, these are the carts that the Fistrals pull. But then I went and checked the scene and I was thinking, oh, okay, that's obviously not. Because, no, hang on. Are the Fistrals definitely pulling the carts which are being invisibly pulled, Daniel? Because it is in the same movie. It is in Order of the Phoenix with Luna Lovegood, who is on the back of the cart. That's where we first see her, and there are no Fistrals there. Right? Are there? Oh my goodness, my mind's gone blank. I'm sorry, guys. And then later on in the movie, we definitely see them there. Oh, Daniel, your comments twist my melon. I'm gonna have to move on, I'm afraid. But thank you so much. I don't remember. I'm clearly getting very confused about the timelines now around the Fistrals. I bloomin' love them though. I ain't got my Fistral here. I haven't. Go and check out the Christmas Day present unboxing, guys. We get a Fistral. Good drink. I'm sorry, guys. I'm genuinely confused about the timeline of when we actually do and don't see Fistrals. I feel like that Harry does see them then, when Luna's there. Jacqueline. Lots of great comments already that say a lot of things I would have said. So I will just add this. I wish I had a magical car like the mystery cars. Being stuck in traffic is actually the worst. Oh, it absolutely is. Also, I love how casually Arthur goes through the barrier at 9 3/4. Well, he likes to like fall through, don't they? Which is amazing. Yeah, they do sound cool, those cars. And like I say, on a scooter, you can do that. You can like pop through the traffic and everything completely legally. But being in a car with it would be very useful. Absolutely. Anna Marie. I have to say that I feel Book Lupin is better than the movie. The scene with the Boggart is interesting in the movie, but in the book you can really see how he's trying to build Neville up. Also, I think the movie could have really done well to show Snape's anger about the whole situation. Well, I was kind of expecting Snape to walk in, quite frankly. Well, this is the thing, because the movie doesn't have the scene with Neville at all, with Trevor and the potion and all this sort of stuff. That's not in the movie at all. And so this chapter really is Neville getting broken down and then getting built up in one class to another. So yeah, that's very true. It really is building Neville up. And like I say, he like goes, ha! When he finally takes out the Boggart at the end, which is glorious. Gaia loves fire. First time commenter, thank you so much. And fellow Hello Hufflepuff, oh my goodness, Gaia, thank you so much. I'm so sorry it's taken me so long to get to these comments. Thanks for doing this. It made me go back to the books after a long time and reminded me why I loved them so much. Oh, Gaia, that's so kind. I hope I'm saying your name right. That's very, very kind of you. Lupin is my favorite. Lupin is one of my favorites. I can't wait to see what you make of the Marauders as a group. Oh, absolutely. But that's a discussion for later. I want to take a moment to appreciate how good of a teacher Lupin is. Just last book, Ron wants to drop Defense Against the Dark Arts. But now everyone is buzzing about it. A good teacher makes all the difference, and it comes naturally to Remus. He seems to really understand the students. Already in his first lesson, he's given everyone a boost of self-confidence. Well, actually, that's exactly what it is, yeah. And him defending Neville makes me really happy. Paraphrasing Madame Pomfrey, finally a Defense Against Dark Arts teacher who knows what he's doing with the chocolate. Very true. In my opinion, he's the best Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher we see. At least he's the one I would want most. Oh, I kind of want to be in Lockhart's. Just for the spectacle of it, you know. But yes, if I'm talking about properly, yes, definitely. If it's for a year, I would definitely want Lupin over Lockhart. I really enjoy the casual scenes, like Ron and Hermione talking about Hogsmeade on the train, excited for completely different reasons. Yes, absolutely, sweets and history. I really like how Harry's properties, how Harry's properties really do reflect his age. Priorities. I'm sorry, my dyslexia is terrible. They're very childish, which isn't a bad thing at all. It makes the very real characters. Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That's why the permission slip being so important to Harry. It's so real. It really just feels so natural for a kid that age. I also appreciate both versions of the Dementor scenes, even though the movie changed it. The movie is the one of the most successful in interpreting the book into its own style on screen, in my opinion. I would have loved to see this director's taken on the other books. I would love that as well. But I'm glad he did this one, as it is also my favourite book. That being said, I do slightly prefer the chaos in the book scene with Neville and Ginny there. What do you think? Yeah, I think that them being there was very important. I think it's important for Ginny. I think it's just natural for Neville. And I feel like that it adds to Harry's fainting even more, you know? And I love the fact that everyone who was in the cart with Lupin is applauding particularly loud when he gets officially made the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Yeah, I've said it before, guys. I don't know if it's my favourite movie out of the bunch. I need to do a top 8, quite frankly, video. But Prince of Azkaban definitely feels like the best made movie. I do feel like that. Like little things like the Something Wicked This Way Comes song. You know, that's so good. That should be the theme to Harry Potter, you know? That song, it's just so appropriate for Harry Potter. Thank you very much for your first comment. It was a wonderful one. Ginny is affected by the Dementors almost as much as Harry. We can see how much she's traumatized by the previous year's events. Well, quite. They didn't show it in the movies at all, which is a shame. Well, Ginny gets nigh on nothing in the movies, doesn't she? She really does. And I'm only just experiencing her in the books now, but yeah. Poor Neville. The adults around him have been constantly putting him down. First his own grandmother, then Snape, and even McGonagall. Yeah, even his extended family. Was it like his uncle like shoved him out a window or something? I can't quite remember. No wonder his confidence is pretty low. I'm really happy Lupin gave him a chance to shine for once. All Neville needed is someone to believe in his abilities. Well, that's the thing. That's the contradiction between the potions lesson and the defense against the dark arts. They're so beautifully put together that you really see that two different sides of Neville. Thank you so much for your comment. Ronette? I'm so sorry. I'm terrible at reading these names. Hello, I'm so happy you're reading this book. Lupin is my favourite character. I believe he believes in his students and tries to bond with them, being actually a nice teacher. After all he went through, it's really impressive. Well, quite, and only makes point of his. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. This isn't how your comment's written. It's because I've been reading for like the last hour or so, and my autism, my autism, but also my dyslexia, gets a little bit tired. After all he went through, it's really impressive, and only makes point of how whatever pain, loss, and difficulties in general your life made you go through, it's only up to you how you decide to deal with it and interact with others. Yes, Snape, I'm looking at you. Well, that's a very interesting point. That's a very interesting point. Also, another thing. Did you know that the character of Remus was originally written to be an allegory of AIDS, HIV? And it was before Rollins came questionable about her beliefs. It was before Rollins came questionable about her beliefs. Being misunderstood and having a whole community come to you with prejudice, specifically between 60s and the 90s, when he lived, and 90s when he lived, when people honestly didn't know what it was, and whoever was sick was immediately outcast. This is fascinating. We're Annette. I really hope I'm saying the name right. That is absolutely fascinating. You know what? When I first watched Prince of Azkaban, me and my brother, I told him how much I blooming loved Lupin. And he said to me, "Did you get the feeling that Lupin is meant to be an allegory of homosexuality? Not specifically AIDS, or HIV, but specifically the way that homosexuals were treated in the past, particularly, like you say, in the 60s, when it was 1950. No, it wasn't. It was 1969? No, 1967, I think, when homosexuality was made legal in the UK. So obviously, prejudice for decades after that was incredibly strong against homosexuality in certain groups, like you say. And so I definitely sensed that about, particularly what he says about Lily and how she was so kind and understanding, so much more than anyone else. That little scene in the movie, which I'm really hoping is in the book, when he talks about Lily to Harry. But specifically HIV and AIDS, you know what, Ray Renetta, I haven't thought that much about it, but I absolutely can see that. That is a fascinating point. Even Alfonso Cuarón asked David Thewlis, which is the actor, to act like his character is gay, and you can see how his performance changed after Tonks was introduced in the future movies. Thus, the whole Wolfstar, Remus, and Sirius ship thing was created among the fans who realized how struggling implying was. Oh my goodness. Implying the chemistry between Twilight and Ullman, and believe me, even books written from the point of view of 13-year-olds, obvious Harry have their moments when it makes you wonder. I'm curious what will your thoughts be? Yes, RIP for 5 sentences rule. Yes, I think that's okay. Quite frankly, yours has been one of the shorter comments in this role so far. I've to this point, guys, and it's been over a year since I started Harry Potter, I've never heard of this ship, Remus and Sirius. I can see it. Honestly, I can see what you mean about the performance of the actor. I always felt like that it was like, you know, an allegory of homosexuality rather than Remus actually being gay. And so when Tonks came along, that didn't really throw me off at all. But yeah, I can imagine there is a lot of fan fiction about these characters. Absolutely. Fantastic comment. Thank you so much. I'm sorry that I struggled to read it. Like I say, it's been a long recording session. It really has. But they always are, though. It's a dance thing. Lupin is just the best, isn't he? He's so knowledgeable and encouraging and kind. I've passed out before, more times than I want to admit, and it is horribly embarrassing, and you just feel awful before it happens. I understand how Harry feels, and the chocolate does help. Yay, Lupin. Chocolate does actually help him, my goodness. Well, it's sugar rush, I guess. That's very interesting. It's a dance thing. That you bring your personal experience of passing out and say how it's embarrassing. Because I got to say this, I haven't actually said it in this video. Oh, man. From my perspective as someone who has not passed out, I don't think ever. Oh no, I once put my finger into a flippin' egg. There was as a child, as a young child, there was like, it's like, you know, like, not a pylon, but a barricade. A cylindrical barricade. And it had a light at the top. And me being me, it's probably because of my autism actually, I had to, like, as a child in particular, I had to touch everything that I see. And I saw this thing, and I put my finger into the top of it where there was a hole. Apparently, I then remember looking at the stars, and like my mum and dad being there, because like I say, I was very young, and apparently I'd been out for a couple of minutes. Jeez. So I essentially electrified myself. Well, not electrified myself. I was a kid. You know, the thing should have had a hole in it. But yes, God, I forgot about that. That's the closest I've been to actually passing out, I think. But the fact that you bring out how horribly embarrassing it is, because when reading these chapters, I was thinking, oh, come on, Harry, you shouldn't feel that embarrassed. But you being someone who's actually experienced it and saying how awful it can be and how embarrassing it is, wow. It's really interesting to hear your perspective on that, because it's not something that I know much about. Pardon me, Mr. Darts thing. I'm excited we're getting more of the other characters now. Lavender and Pravati are definitely quite the pair. They really are. You'll get to know them pretty well. And the Divinations class are a hoot. Classes are a hoot. I'll keep this one short and sweet because I know there are already some long comments. Mostly just interested in your thoughts on these, particularly controversial chapters. This has been a fascinating book club, guys. It really has. It's been very different. I'll say that. It's been very different compared to other ones, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Just seeing how many we got now. Fantastic. Oh, That was the previous one. We got a few more. Annette, I really hope I'm saying your name right. Apparently, somehow skipped ahead a chapter in my comment last time. Sorry. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you said that you hadn't made a comment, but you had done. What I was saying was that, like how the book showed how the Dementors affected all of the kids on the train. I see. Poor Ginny was a wreck. I also love Fred and George telling them how scared Draco came running into the compartment. I like that as well. But were they telling the truth? They probably were. Then there's Sir Cadogan. And all the hypocrite stuff. Not just Buckbeak. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All the hippogriffs, not just Buckbeak. There's also the way Lupin sticks up for Neville and tries to boost his confidence when Snape is such a jerk to him. I know it's not a popular opinion, but I really don't like Snape despite his heroic actions behind the scenes. That's the great thing about this story, and you actually acknowledge it. The fact that it's in your comment, the fact that it's not a popular opinion. Your opinion is as valid as everyone else. Howard's opinion is absolutely valid as everyone else. Michelle's opinion was absolutely valid as everyone else. Dara's opinions, everyone's opinion, Q's opinion, even though they said that they didn't want to add to it. All of your opinions, guys, are absolutely valid on this. And when I'm like, if I like go all quiet and fold my hands and talking quietly, it's because I'm really thinking through the viewpoint of someone thinking this about the characters, because I want to understand it. You know, it helps me form my own views of it. You know, it's brilliant. This is my favorite bit of doing these book reviews, guys. It is a joy to read these comments. So thank you very much for your wonderful comment. Anders. Guys, what happened to the 3 or 4 sentences? Poor Veggie. Thank you very much, Anders. That was the comment I'd seen. And that is the comment I had seen say before. So thank you. Greatly appreciated. But like I say, if you're... I wouldn't want you to not be able to put your point across. If you can do that in a shorter way, it's appreciated. But if you can't, go ahead. But thank you very much, Anders. Greetings from Sweden. Love your videos. Thank you so much, Sophie. Fun fact, in the Swedish version of the books, Tom Riddle's name is Tom Dolder, sorry? So it would fit the spelling, I am Lord Voldemort, in Swedish. Oh, no way, that's interesting. I guess they'd have to do that for each subject, wouldn't they? Each language, wouldn't they? Also, Lockhart's name is Gillenoy Lockman. Crookshanks is Crumben. And Buckbeaks is, oh my goodness, Buckbeaks is Vingfile. I don't think I've even seen that A before. Vingflail, maybe. My goodness. I'm fascinating to hear these different names. I suffer from dyslexia myself, and it was a trip to watch the movies for the first time and realize how all the English names should be pronounced. Oh, I bet. I love Lupin's lesson with the Boggart and in the book and in the movie. However, I wish they hadn't shown the dementor in the scene. Hadn't shown the dementor in that scene in the movie. It makes Lupin jump in front of Harry less important. The whole point of him stepping in was to prevent a dementor or a vision of Voldemort from appearing in class. Yeah. And also it means that Harry has to stand there not like a lemon, but stand there and I guess be too scared to get rid of the dementor. So Lupin then does jump in. It does change a lot. I'm looking forward to the conversation that Harry and Lupin are going to have next, guys, quite frankly. Because that's going to be very different. It's going to be very different compared to the movie, no doubt. Thank you very much for your comment. Greatly appreciated. Loved hearing all those different spellings of the names. Jonas, thank you very much for your book club icon image. Wow, that's sorry. There are many comments and some serious discussions. through all of it and enjoy the different opinions of these chapters. I'm just keep it short now. I'm happy for you, Veggie, that you are getting your mention of Penelope in the first chapter, since you enjoy Percy's storyline so much. Oh, absolutely. I have plenty of closed. Oh yes. Okay, so nothing that Jonas does. Ready when you are. So nothing that. Okay, so when I'm done with when I've gone through a book review, guys, after I've like basically filmed these, I then go to the book club post on Patreon and put closed at the top, just to let everyone know that we're now done with this section, and like the next one will be posted fairly soon. And Jonas keeps a keen eye on that, and whenever he sees it on Twitter, he will post this like a different meme each time, and they're always blooming hilarious. I always retweet them as well. But yes, I'm looking forward to seeing what you got, Jonas. Greatly appreciated. Oh my goodness, Catty, there we go. The scene where the trio are checking up on Hagrid and he gets upset with Harry, says that he's Hagrid, not worth visiting. That's true. Was more upsetting this time around. You are worth it, Hagrid. Oh my, it's up because of Robbie Coltrane, I would imagine, Catty. That I didn't make a note of that. The last line of that chapter, guys, is Hagrid said, "I'm not worth that." Sad. And it just shows how much he cares about Harry, and obviously the other kids as well. Ah, oh, poor Hagrid, jeez. What a great character, eh, guys? Thank you so much for your comment, Catty. Digo. I really enjoy that we see how an adult and experienced wizard, i.e. Mr. Weasley, crosses the barriers at the platform 9 3/4 by just nonchalantly leaning against it instead of running towards it like a madman. Oh, is that because he can do it like that? I didn't think that for a second, Ego. Great comment, great comment. Also, Hermione, I hope there's something good for lunch. I'm starving. I know, I picked up on that as well. I never thought about it before, but of course Hermione would have only eaten lunch once a day, even though even on a day where she's time turning because of her timetable. That's a sentence. Yes, I did pick up on that, I must admit. So on those days, poor Hermione has to go multiple additional hours without eating anything more than everyone else. I know. You reap what you sow. She's asked for, well, she didn't ask for it, admittedly, but yeah, it's got to be tough for her. Maybe that's why she's getting tetchy with trolling, because it's like her third lesson, even though it's everyone else's first. Maybe that's it. Great comment. Lizette. I hope I say your name right. 2 points that I haven't been brought up in the comments yet. I absolutely love Dumbledore for hiring Hagrid as the teacher the moment that his name is cleared. Absolutely. I have no doubt that it was politics that somehow kept him from doing this for Hagrid sooner. Ooh, maybe. Yeah, I guess so. Maybe he would have done it sooner. Although he would have had to wait for the previous one to retire to spend more time with his remaining limbs. But yeah, great point. Also, I was amazed at how the kids all knew their greatest fears right away. I don't think I could answer straight away if someone asked me. Maybe that's a part of being that age. But yeah, I mean, mine are weird, guys. It's like being near or inside tall buildings. How would the Boggart represent that? Greatest fear. You're right. Being able to come up with it like that is pretty difficult. Great comment. Gary, why do you think Malfoy decided to take care of magical creatures? Bloomin' heck, good question. Hang on, it's Slytherin and... Oh no, it's still the Slytherins who had chosen it. Yes, no, you're right. It doesn't seem like a very Malfoyish subject. Is he secretly an animal lover? He doesn't have a pet though, does he? I mean, we discussed what his relationship with Dobby could have been previously. I'll say this. Care of magical creatures You don't necessarily have to be an animal lover. It depends how you see animals. Like, there's lots of people who own horses who see them as, well, it's a stupid term, but a cash cow. They see the horse as a cash cow, rather than them actually loving the animal. So maybe that's it. But Crab and Goyle are there as well. Is care for magical creatures definitely an optional class? I need to go for a list of which classes are actually optional, because would Ron really go for that? Oh man, Gary, good question about Malfoy. That's a very good point. That's kind of twisting my melon as well. Will. Oh, hi Veggie. This is my first time in a book club. I'm very excited. Well, thank you so much. Prince of Azkaban is also my favourite book, so I had to join the club. Awesome. Thoroughly enjoying it so far. What I find interesting about the Dementor chapter is that it's already foreshadowed Harry's fears of fears of the Dementor by how much more they affect him, and him closing his eyes when they go past them. In the same chapter, there is also a reference to this sneaker scope which goes off. Many would assume it's because of the Dementors, but I always imagine it is because of Pettigrew. Oh! The last bit I have to mention is how much more angry and disgusted Snape looked when Dumbledore announced Lupin as the new teacher, knowing their past. Absolutely. Well, great point about Peter Pettigrew. Scabbers, as I'm still calling him. That is so true. That it's got to be because of Scabbers. But you're definitely led to believe that because there's something else going on around the train at the time. Snape looking at Lupin. I mean, the thing is, in the movie, it's one of the... I even remarked upon it before I knew any of the history between Snape and Lupin. But Snape, like in the movie, like goes like that when everyone else is like giving him like a big round of applause and everything. Whereas no, he's straight up like dirty. I can't remember the term, but you know, dirt facing. That's not it, is it? He's giving him a dirty look. You know, he probably is in the book, and having known their past from at least the movies, yeah. And obviously we don't know that. We shouldn't know that yet as book readers. But yeah, it all falls into place, doesn't it? Well, thank you so much for your first comment. It's greatly appreciated. Kismet. Finally caught up on the audiobooks, so first time posting in the book club. Thank you so much. Oh, there's so many newbies today. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry it's taken me so long to get to these comments. Obviously over Christmas, I was very limited for time, but we're back to it now, and hopefully next time we'll be able to get to it faster. In chapter 5, did you notice how when arriving at Hogwarts, Harry thinks about how the carriages must be pulled by invisible horses? It feels very clever since it comes back into play later on. So they are Fistrals then. Oh my goodness, I'm so confused. Isn't it? I really am so confused. Oh, hang on. So the death that's affected Harry is Cedric. It is, isn't it? Oh, I'm an idiot. I'm so sorry, guys. You guys have probably corrected me so many times in the comments already whilst watching this. But yeah, isn't it? That's the answer, isn't it? I love the Fistrals so much. I really do. They really did. I think there's such a beautiful way of looking at death from a young person's perspective. You know, the fact that you're gaining something as well as losing something. I think it's beautiful. Thank you so much for your wonderful comment, and thank you so much for you being your first. I look forward to your next one. Gothic Llama, that is a great username. Hello there. I can't wait for you to learn more about Sirius and the super cool badass Ginny. Can you tell she's my favourite? Throughout the books, I hope you're having a lot of fun with these books, as many of us did the first time reading. Oh, I really am. They're a blooming treat. They really are, Gothic. Really love the little stares between Ginny and Harry when something funny happens. The early signs of their true characters that was never shown in the movies. Exactly, it's when Percy's like, high-stepping it to Penelope on the train station, and Ginny and Harry having a little like laugh to each other. Absolutely. There is one thing I've been thinking about. If Hagrid's innocence had been proven in the last book, could he possibly finish his Hogwarts education and get his new wand? This is exactly what I was questioning earlier on. I mean, he was wrongly expelled in the 3rd year, so it would be nice to let him finish his studies. There has to be some sort of adult education system, maybe even at Hogwarts, in fact. It would mean a lot to him. It would mean a lot to him. I completely agree. I mean, the fact is, he's now a professor, so he certainly should be allowed a wand if you're going to be looking after fantastic beasts and remembering where they are. Also, I'm currently rereading the 20th anniversary Ravenclaw edition of the books and want to share some interesting facts. Oh my goodness! Get comfy, guys. Looking forward to some Ravenclaw facts. Rowena Ravenclaw's marble statue is in the common room, and she purposely died of a broken heart. Supposedly died of a broken heart. She also was best friends with Helga Hufflepuff. She must be a good taste then. That's fantastic. That's interesting that her statue is in the common room. I'm wondering if we're going to be able to go into different common rooms in Hogwarts Legacy, or if you're stuck to only your one. Part of me thinks being stuck to only your one would be the best option for a video game stance. As for second playthroughs and stuff, Some famous Ravenclaws are Mr. Ollivander, Professor Trelawney. I didn't know that. I did not know that about Trelawney. And Ignitia Wildsmith. She invited the Floo powder. My goodness, that's impressive. You know what? That sounds like a Ravenclaw invention. Apparently, the Sorting Hat was torn between placing Flitwick in Gryffindor or Ravenclaw. When I first found out that each professor had, not each professor, but each house had a head professor, I thought, okay, well, obviously, Flitwick is going to be Hufflepuff. Genuinely did, guys. Obviously, that was before I met Sprout in Chamber of Secrets. Fantastic comment. Loving the Ravenclaw take on it all, Gothic Llama. That was awesome. Greatly appreciated. Fleur. I really like the chapters where we get to see more of Hogwarts classes themselves, like witnessing the whole class of Divination, or to get a glimpse of McGonagall's Transfiguration class. Did you notice that she taught the students what an animagus is? We know this gets important later on. Oh, so it's similar to Snape and the blooming werewolf, you're saying? It makes sense. Because she would know Sirius Black's his gig. It would make sense. I am nonetheless a little sad that the subject of that subjects like Muggle studies. I thought it said Maggie Smith then. Okay, so this has been a long video. My eyes are seeing things now, guys. I was so sure you said Maggie Smith, who played McGonagall in the movies. Muggle studies, arithmancy, and ancient ruins only get mentioned without us experiencing that exactly the studies learnt in those classes. Also, we can already see that the relationship between Ron and Hermione is much more complicated than it's shown in the film. I completely agree with that. They quarrel more in the books. This is the thing, because it's more. They do quarrel, but it's kind of one-way quarreling, you know? I don't want to sound like I'm down on movie Hermione, because I'm not. Much more. As always, keep up the good work, Veggie. I wish you a great start to the new year. Greetings from Germany. Thank you for your effort. It's always greatly appreciated hearing from you. In fact, you're often the last comment, in fact. Tammy. I've got two more. Okay. Renee popped in just in time. Tammy, I really love all the care of magic creatures lessons. And I think it's a pity they only show the first one in the movie. Oh, interesting. Also, I just wanted to mention that Hagrid knows what he is doing in the books. Not just concerning the creatures, but also when Malfoy gets hurt. Unlike in the movie where Hermione has to tell him to bring Malfoy to a hospital wing, I think he actually is doing a good job as a teacher. Tammy, I agree. Now, I'll say this. The dialogue in the movie is Hermione comes walking in and says, Hagrid, you got to get him to the hospital wing. And I think that Hagrid's initial reaction is, oh, it's just a scratch. No, I think he says just a scratch to Draco. Tis but a flesh wound. That being said, in the book version, that would not be an option because there is blood going everywhere again because it's Harry Potter movie, Harry Potter book. Draco's cut is bad. It's not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, Harry keeps on downplaying it. Says, "Oh, come on, I had my bones restructured last year," and everything is. But Draco's injury initially is bad before going off to see Pomfrey. And so that would be ridiculous if like Draco bleeding on the floor, and I can start saying, "Ah, oh, get up, you crybaby." But so obviously it's a bit different there, where they gave Hagrid the opportunity to not fully appreciate how hurt Draco is. But then again, Hagrid is a big guy. Maybe he's never experienced being. Oh man, it's definitely food for thought. But you're right. It is better that Hagrid knew that he had to take action there and then, rather than Hermione telling him that he should do. On the other subject, Ron is picking up really fast about Hermione not telling them about the time turner. He always asks how she manages to take all the subjects and notices when she is gone. He is really looking out for her, which is a great to see this early since they become a couple. Well, quite absolutely. And like you say, like the quarreling it's all a part of that. The Boggart scene was amazing as well. Very different fears than in the movies. Absolutely. Blooming eyeball. Ugh. While rereading this scene, this was the first time that I noticed, probably because I just watched Wednesday. That Wednesday is in the show Wednesday? We need to see. Watch Wednesday. The Dean's Boggart is thing from the Addams Family. Do you have any theories on? I think he's definitely seen Addams Family. Do you have any theories what Hermione's Boggart could be? Well, we know she's scared of heights, but that would be weird. How would a Boggart represent that? Oh, would it be too emotional to say the was it the Queen that knocked Ron off the knights in Philosopher's Stone? Did you show that little connection between Ron and her? No, that's too much. I'm trying to think what she's been through so far. Oh, the blooming basilisk. I mean, it put her under for long enough, didn't it? I think it'd be the basilisk. So it can't be heights, because that made no sense. And she had a very traumatic experience with the basilisk. If she remembers what it looks like, maybe not, but maybe just be like the big yellow eyes. I'd say the basilisk. That's my theory. I want to see what people have said. No, I thought Carrie may have had a theory. I think it's the basilisk. There's my face. And Renee, thank you so much for your comment here. You round this off. Intimidating and other fear-based tools are not valid educational strategies. Period. I think, dear Veggie, that you are seeing the full force in the comment section why Snape is such a polarizing character. Perfectly put, Renee. I think like many of the most interesting literary characters, he is not simply one thing. That's it. If everyone had the same opinion of Snape, he wouldn't be so many people's favorite character. Snape can be brave, sacrificing himself, and fiercely protective. It can simultaneously be true that a man who takes out his petty grievances against people who are neither responsible for those grievances nor in a position to challenge him. It's very true. It's like the idea of a hero being always just and everything. Yeah. On the question of his teaching, though, I think the proof is in the performance of those he most consistently targets. When he is not present, creating an unsafe environment. When he is not present, creating an unsafe environment for growth. Both Harry and Neville improve significantly when not being targeted. Well, there you go. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah, because it's basically it's Neville. Let's face it. It's Neville who comes up with the idea in Goblet, at least in the movie, for Harry to use the gills. That's the right term. Yeah, guys, this has been a wonderful discussion about Snape. And there's not been one which I'd say is just all out wrong. Sure, there have been ones which I've asked specific questions to the writer of the comments, just because I'm really interested to see what your thoughts are on it. But none of them are wrong. None of them are absolutely set in stone right. That's the joy of covering these chapters. Quite frankly, when I was seeing the back and forth, guys, I thought that it was going to be something much worse that Snape did. So that's my hot take. So if you disagree with me, you're saying, no, Veggie, what he did was really bad, and this is why. Please put it into the comments, guys. Seriously. But I feel like he was going to revive Trevor no matter what happened. That's my opinion. And, maybe in the next chapter we'll find out that he does exactly the same thing and he doesn't revive Trevor. But that's the joy of me not knowing what's coming. So love every single one of you. I'm now going to close this book club, Jonas. And this has been an absolute joy. Thank you all so much for watching. Sorry it took me a while to get this one, guys. But like I say, Christmas is basically a no-go for me when it comes to getting this stuff out. But on to the next one. Chapters 8, 9, and 10. And we're basically halfway through the book. Loving this book so far, guys. It's wonderful. Please subscribe, all the good stuff. I'm VEGGIEKNIGHTS, and I'll see you next time.